They're going to be kicking to the left of screen. And also joining us tonight is on the boundary, the Dipper. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Sandy. As you mentioned, it is raining, but it's not cold. That's a good news. For the West Coast Eagles, you've got Brett Heady, Nicholas Stone, Fewster and Worsfold on the bench. And the Brisbane Lions, we've got Richard Champion, Rory Hilton, and Simon Black and Scotty Bamford on the bench for the Lions. Just a slight breeze going towards the Vulture end, and I'm looking forward to a really hard contest at the border, mate.
Yes, I think it will be too, Dipper. An important one for both sides as young Robbins picks himself up. There's Kennedy and Heady.
And a very open forward line, the Brisbane Lions. It looks like Chris Johnson has been told to run Guy McKenna out of the area of their play.
Clark gives it to Scott. They go down towards the forward line. Here's the first goal of the night. How easy is that for Daniel Bradshaw, who comes back into the lineup. Great start by the Lions.
Well, it was quick and efficient, wasn't it? And, well, Daniel Bradshaw is one player that has had a very poor season. All the expectations were him to fire this year, and he's been down in the Cubs, incidentally coached by Michael Voss tonight. And, well, he's responded after being elevated to senior selection. A very quick goal after Scott got the ball from Clark. Good combination by the Lions.
So just the start, both the Lions and Daniel Bradshaw was looking for to give him some confidence back in the side.
And the Eagles starting with both Braun and Reid in the middle of the ground, two very young players.
Ball wins the tap, it comes to Sean Hardy, gives it back to Brad Scott, his second possession early, up towards the 50. Lepage comes out, McIntosh with him, taken by Chris Scott to Sean Hart. The Lions look good early, goes long again, this time too far for Bradshaw, and the minor score results.
So Metropolis is picking up Bradshaw, and Lepage is being minded by McIntosh, and Lepage is dragging McIntosh away from the play, and I guess away from a position where he is perhaps better suited, and that being fullback.
Guy McKenna to kick in for the Eagles. The whistle goes just as he's kicking his target. Jason Ball slips over, so it gives Clark an advantage, but it goes over the back. Jason Akametis, who's been in good form, runs onto the ball, switches in towards the middle. Coming out as McRae, gets around, he's going to run down. Brilliant chase, holding the ball to decision. Play on, Reid through the middle. The chip kick looking for Heady. Kennedy goes back, but Heady's too good.
Plays on quickly, gives it out to Drew Banfield, who kicks from 51 metres. Penetrating kick to full forward, and the answer is going to come up right now. With the mark taken by Fraser Gehrig in the square. He can swing back and pop through the West Coast Eagles' first goal.
Well, it's a great move through the middle of the ground by the Eagles. Gehrig was the only player in the forward 50. He led to his right, then ducked back and got it on his own and finishes with an easy goal.
So one to Gehrig and one to Bradshaw, and a good start to this game at the Gabba.
Yes, an excellent start. It looks like it's going to be pretty free-flowing football at the moment. Good tackle there by Phil Matera. And here comes one of my favourite players, one of my favourite youngsters in the competition, Phil Reid. He is an outstanding player, a good runner, runs in straight lines. And there's the delivery. Alistair Lynch left floundering, but nothing much he could do there with that pressure.
First goal to the West Coast Eagles tonight, kicked by the Murray Bushrangers, best and fairest back in 1993, Fraser Gehrig. So it's a goal apiece, and it's the Lions leading by just that one behind. As the West Coasters look to go into attack once again. As we mentioned, Williams gets a chance at senior football coming into this lineup for Wirrapunda as Akamanis looks down towards half forward for the Brisbane Lions. Scott was the flyer. He couldn't take it. Hart was going through strongly. Socket off the ground by Jakovic at the back. Lux of Fortune's got a slew towards Guy McKenna, but it's a slippery ball. Down they go like nine pins. Picked up quickly by McRae. Can't get the kick away. It's going to be slippery and it's going to be tough. It'll be like a piece of soap later on in the night. Johnson caught inside 50. Ball spills free once again. Matera's in trouble. Goes wider than Kemp. Wider than he wanted. Picked up by Scott. Then he lost it. McKenna's in there battling for it as well. It's not going to be easy as Robbins is finding out. McRae tries to slap it on, but they're letting it go. The whistle's been put away. The centering kick goes to Scott, and he takes them up.
Well, first possession for Dion Scott, who starts on a half-forward flank. He is the nominal centre-half forward, one suspects, but he's dragging Glenn Jakovic away from that central defensive position, a strategy used by most clubs these days. But to make a real win of it, he's got to kick the goals.
He's kicked 13 so far this season. Right on 50 and pushes that towards the left. And the defence will be able to bring it away as Simmons takes the hand pass.
As he runs it out to the wing, Donnelly, yes, takes the mark. Well, the umpire says he took it, and that's good enough. Donnelly stays with the boundary. It's 2-on-1 contest. Clark, punch in front to Brad Scott. So the choice by Donnelly not good.
Yeah, it's an interesting option, wasn't it? This is the grab, and it did go to ground, but the kick went to Ben Cousins, who was leading to a position up against Matthew Clark, and Ben Cousins is being tagged by Chris Scott.
Clark won the tap. It went down towards Hart. The soccer off the ground. Tap on by Johnson. Matera there for the Eagles. Johnson goes again. Here's a chance there for Cousins. Tries to break the tackle towards Simmons and Ackermanis. They'll do battle on the wing. Ackermanis puts Ashcroft under pressure. He can't quite grab it. Umpire's found a free kick, and it's going to Ashcroft, but Ackermanis picks it up.
It's in fact Brad Scott with the job on Cousins and his brother.
Comes out of the centre. McKenna trying to run it out for the Eagles. Leppich comes in. Lawrence has run up to lend a hand. Finds Leppich. Quick kick. It's caught high as he kicks it. And with a free kick will be taken at the point where the infringement was. So Justin Leppich will take the kick.
And here you see it, ball is very slippery, as you said, Sandy, and Jakovic just going in a bit too high.
Matera well tied out for the West Coast Eagles in the back pocket. Just trying to make a few metres in front of the social club here at the Gabba, and pushes it over the line as his teammates look on. An important game for the boys from the West tonight. If they are to figure in the finals, they dearly love one at home, I'm sure. It's Clark and Ball again, won by the former, and he goes in once again, big Matthew Clark. Umpire's found a free kick, and it's going to go his way. He's on right half forward and will be very keen to perform well tonight. The lead is on. Bradshaw comes steaming out and takes the mark 40 metres from goal, but directly in front, and a chance to kick his second.
Oh, it's a brilliant kick by the big ruckman Matthew Clark, and a great lead also by Bradshaw, who started the game with great confidence, but I'm sure the coach Mick Malthouse would be questioning why there isn't somebody in that area blocking up the space.
Bradshaw for his second and his 11th of the season. Looks pretty good. He's got his second.
One of the great assets of Daniel Bradshaw is his straight kicking. He's a very good converter. It's not generally regarded as the strength of Matthew Clark, but Barry Cable and even Peter Matera would have been pleased with that kick. Just bridging the generation gap there, Matthew.
Oh, I was with you there, Jared.
Shane Williams, long-term trainer for the Lions, with the goal kicker.
So in rainy conditions, 3 goals already as Clark wins the tap. Both teams try to go off the ground. Reid was successful. Dick Foss infringes Donnelly. Free kick to him. Donnelly from inside the centre square. The running player out wide is Jason Ball. He's provided the option. Jason Ball, about 60 metres out. Very unsure of where to kick. So the holes have been filled.
And in a position like this, the one thing the Eagles do lack is a very capable marking target up forward.
Well, he's gone for a 3-on-1 situation, and Dick Foss, a good mark considering the conditions, in front.
Fraser Gehrig is a fair mark above his head, but generally out on the lead and out in front rather than taking pack marks a la a Carey or a Stuart Lowe.
Here's a chance for the Eagles. Matera goes back to Morrison. Morrison short and finds Braun.
Braun with a job on Sean Hart this evening. Hart, a very consistent player for the Lions.
Braun's kick is not good though, and Nigel Lappin, who last week was sensational with 37 possessions, takes the mark. Lawrence provides the run as he runs outside his defensive 50, up to 1-on-1. Johnson uses his body well but can't quite take the mark, then decides to soccer off the ground and almost puts it right up the race.
And just another combination in the middle of the ground. Lappin, as we just saw, sprinting away from Banfield, and Banfield has the job on Lappin. And obviously a little bit of work to be done on the soccer skills there of young Johnson.
Guy McKenna finds Donnelly on the outer side, just chipping around the wing, goes short, finding Michael Braun. It's in the true centre wing spot. Braun looks to a congested forward line. then kicks to the lead of Garrick, who appeared to put the hand on the shoulder. But play on is the call, and Robbins kicks it long and wide up towards the half-back line, but once again halted by Djakovic. Keen for a big night, no doubt, tonight is Glenn Djakovic. Donnelly once more. Taking the mark and looking towards Heady. Kennedy, his immediate opponent, swings in the hand pass to Ashcroft. Marcus Ashcroft gets boot the ball pretty quickly. It's a favourable bounce for Djakovic. He eludes a couple, he eludes three, and then pumps it long. Inside 50 once again. Gehrig and co are there. Who's going to do the tidying up? Lawrence tries to get it wide. Lynch picks it up now, wobbles it towards the line, makes 25 metres, then puts it out in front of Hart for throwing.
And on screen you can see that a change has been made in that matchup. Braun is now with Ashcroft, and as we saw, Reid has now picked up Sean Hart as Glenn Djakovic's man. Dion Scott has been taken off, one suspects, because Glenn Djakovic picked up a couple of possessions in a row.
Boundary throw in favours Robbins. The quick kick high to where Dion Scott was. Champion now on the ground. The ball comes to ground towards McIntosh. Chris Scott collects him. Djakovic with another possession. Out wider to Braun, to Waterman. Waterman with his natural left foot up to the half-forward line. Lawrence with the punch over Philip Matera. Boundary throw in.
Richard Champion, who would be regarded as quicker than Dion Scott, has gone on to Glenn Djakovic, and maybe the fact that he's also got a defensive nature about him will also help.
And one suspects also the conditions. Richard seems to handle the wet conditions a little bit better. As it comes towards the boundary line again, Ben Cousins sees it over.
He certainly has been playing up forward the last 2 or 3 weeks, Richard Champion, so it's another focal point for the Lions.
The voice of Cinderella from the boundary line. At Crown, isn't it? Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, Cindy?
Spot on.
Does he have to go home at midnight?
Never does. Clark and Ball from the throw-in. And Dean Kemp in there. Darryl White, another throw-in. Well, despite the rain, the paint's holding okay at the moment. Clark again with ball. Darryl White lurking. McRae tries to get Matera, but he still gets the kick in. Down towards the half-forward line. Here's a chance for Reid now. This looks ominous as far as the Brisbane Lions are concerned. His kick goes in towards goal, but it's off target and through for one behind. One straight kick the difference. And in conditions like this, Jared, do you believe these conditions would favour one of these sides more than the other?
Well, I think the Eagles are one of the most outstanding wet weather sides that we have seen. Their numbers and personnel have changed somewhat over the last couple of years, as we all know, but they still have a number of highly skilled players that do tend to lift their work rate in the wet.
Kennedy takes it from Ashcroft, then kicks towards half forward. Clean bowls a couple, an opportunity now for the Lions. Need the players going past. Scott is one of them. Takes it and kicks between centre and half forward. Long kick by Scott. Down towards full forward. Belted towards the line. Who's going to be first to recover? Picked up by Ackermanis. Hurriedly gets boot to ball. Centering kick. Robbins is waiting down to do the roving. It's with him now. He gets claimed. McIntosh had it for a moment, then lost it. Needs backup support and gets it through Robbins as he comes away. Down towards Kemp, and he's got it on centre wing.
And he's got a paddock to run into. He takes a bounce. It's courageous on the wet ground and then kicks to the lead of Gehrig and finds him. So Fraser Gehrig on a long lead. Decides to play on. Lynch in trouble. Gehrig inside 50 and just pushes it, and with that breeze goes across the face. And the mark has been taken just inside by Brett Heady.
Yeah, major blow to the Brisbane Lions. It appears that Alistair Lynch will be out of the match because he has done his hamstring.
Well, that is bad news for the Lions. He has been in very good form.
Richard
very,
Champion
very
getting
solid.
Quickly down to the defensive area.
And they're carrying Alistair Lynch off, as Brett Heady will line up from the forward pocket, right on the boundary line. Runs around, improves his angle, and goes.
Yeah, nice piece of work there by Brett Heady. He mopped up what should have been done by Fraser Gehrig. That was a brilliant pass, and a nice, we saw a little Lynch going down there. And that is tragic news for the Lions, because he will miss at least 2 matches, given that he's got next week off with the state game, and it's the second time it's happened this year. So some scar tissue building up now for Alistair Lynch, and his problems seemingly will never go away.
A bonus for the West Coast with Brett Heady scoring his first. Tragedy for the Brisbane Lions with Alistair Lynch leaving the ground with hamstring problems. Robbins gets it to Hart. He has a fresh air shot and he decides to go again. Leppich went bouncing through but lost the football in the process. It comes wider towards Cousins, gets a hurry kick down towards centre half forward. It's going to be a real test now as Braun gets taken to ground, loses the footy for a moment. Eventually it's Dick Foss has started this game in fine fashion but gets ridden into the ground, loses the footy. Leppich again sweeps the hand pass wide. Lawrence short and that's going to be okay. Goes in towards Marcus Ashcroft and he marks on centre wing. Ashcroft looking towards the 50. Bradshaw's one of his targets. They've got the players to tidy up. It was Waterman who got the hand pass away. Gee, that wasn't very tidy in the end as far as the West Coast and Chad Morrison were concerned, and eventually taken over the line.
No, Morrison just had a little fumble. He was lucky to get away with it. As we just have another look at Alistair Lynch going down. He's ripped that left hamstring the second time this season, and well, it's been one of those years for Alistair Lynch. Terrible news for him.
Here's a chance now for the Brisbane Lions through Scotty Bamford, high and wide, and just sneaking it in from behind.
Sandy Richard Champion now has gone to full back, a position I'm sure he knows very well.
Yes, thank you, Dipper. 2-2 plays 2-1 with the Lions leading after getting the opening goal from Daniel Bradshaw. Fraser Garrick replied. Bradshaw got another one. And then Brett Heady kicked one. So goal for goal at the moment as McKenna has it at halfback.
Guy McKenna with a bit of space there from the kick in. He'll go short again. Finds Chad Morrison. 1 point the Lions. Morrison to the outer wing. Lead of Heady with him Kennedy. Comes to Reid, who's been good early. Caught high by Bamford. And Reid, who plays with a maturity beyond his years. Swings it wide. Heady's run on. Kennedy's gone back with him. That appears to be a good duel already. Donnelly can't quite pick it up. Crude tackle by Kennedy. And Donnelly will take another free kick.
Well, he certainly helped the umpire make his decision, Andrew Donnelly, but it was just a bit of a sloppy attack on the man there by Matthew Kennedy.
It's like old-time wrestling.
Great stuff.
Donnelly taking his time, decides to go short. Puts the pressure on ball, but again he marks. This time he'll kick from just outside 50. Jakovic off, Worsfold on. So Glenn Jakovic already finding himself on the bench, and the skipper returning to the fray. Hasn't got off his line, he hasn't played on. Decides to use Matera. Matera with a go with a long bomb. It doesn't come off, it goes to the square. Coming over was Heady again. His teammate Banfield runs into him, and it's held up.
Well, it's not a great night for overhead marking, but that was the problem facing Jason Ball. As we have a look at Brett Heady get cleaned up by first Lappin and then his own teammate. But if they're not getting the ball in quickly, they haven't got anybody to use as a focal point down there.
Lappin tries to find some ground along the boundary line and successfully finds about 40 metres up the wing.
They've got Fuster on the bench. He's the sort of player that could be a beacon down there and maybe take a big grab, but at this stage they're going with Fraser Gehrig alone from the goal square. Jakovic and Fuster, Nick Stone, and the young man Williams playing his first game.
Clark to do better with ball. Ball does well, takes it out of the air, but the kick a little bit scrappy. Well done there by Matera, Phillip. It comes back to him. He gets the kick. It's a kick going up towards the goal square. Over the back, here's a chance for Banfield. He'll get round on his natural left foot. Puts it down the corner and goals.
What a goal.
Yes, you called it brilliantly there, Matthew. It was an absolute pearler of a goal. Good handball there by, I think it was Phil Matera, coming from the base of the pack and then just getting up, sporting a new haircut, Phil Matera. But it was excellent work there by Banfield, knowing that he had his preferred left foot as a weapon, and he was in good control of his weaponry because he pierced the uprights.
Sensational goal by Drew Banfield. That's the Eagles' third, and they have the lead as Robbins tries to take it out of the middle, but it's going to be Dean Kemp who kicks it high up towards the half-forward line, towards the man of the moment. Couldn't take the mark. It was almost interfered with by Lappert. He's quick to recover. However, it's Kemp again up towards the 50, over the head of Donnelly. He recovers a little quicker than Danny Dickfoss. Donnelly still going. Now Dickfoss chips in, gives the hand pass away. It's wobbled up towards Scott on half-back. He slides over the line with a little bit of assistance from Dean Kemp. And a throw in the Eagles' attacking zone, right half forward. Clark doing the work from behind. This is Kemp. Puts it out in the open spaces. The race is on. Fraser Gehrig is a long way from home now, and he's still trying to pick up the footy. Richard Champion is right there with him. Champion scoops it out the back door. Makes probably 25 metres. Goes towards Johnny Worsfold. He's under pressure going to the line.
Worsfold coming off because Dion Scott's now gone back to centre half forward, and Jakovic is back on there. Bit of a mismatch there, but now they're matched up again.
We just saw the difficulty with Fraser Gehrig trying to control the ball below his legs. I think he moves with such agility that we often forget that he's such a tall man, in the old language, in the vicinity of about 6'5".
Yep. There's Glenn Jakovic. Quiet day last week. Those are rare for that man. Peter Matera. This is Ball and Clark. On the outer wing here at the Gabba. Could have been some holding on there to Kemp, but players allowed to go on. Robbins is sandwiched. Peter Matera goes once more. Waterman in over the top. And finally another bounce. Again, the same two combatants. Ackermanis gets it towards Kennedy. He's under pressure. Little Robbins goes in and gets it out pretty well. Now they've got an opportunity of going up towards a right half forward. Scott picks it up now, sizes up his options, looks towards the 50, but McKenna's there, and he takes the mark virtually unopposed.
You're doing quite well across the half-back line, Guy McKenna. He's now against Bamford. It does look as if Bamford's instructions are just to push him up away from the ball up to the wing.
Speaking of which, the ball has run over the boundary line on the centre wing, with Dean Kemp in picture there.
Now at this moment, Scott Bamford is about 100 metres away from the ball on the outer wing, the wing closest to us, and Guy McKenna just has to go with him.
Clark and ball again. Clark this time with a decisive tap towards Simon Black, who's on the ground. Back in the side, it comes back to Clark. Perhaps didn't expect it, but his kick goes long, too long in fact, and Ashley McIntosh. Tosh. There's a tough. I'm not sure about that, but he marks inside his own defensive 50. Plays on, switches the play. Chad Morrison, nothing up forward.
Oh.
Are they going to work it out? It remains to be seen, but they have now as Guy McKenna's come back to lend support. He again switches to the outer side. Out in front of Matera, tries to run onto it. Can't quite pick it up. Cinderella having trouble with the weather. But it comes to Matera again. Here's the chance now for the Eagles. Reed kicks from 51, low. Heady can't mark. Ball spills to ground. Kennedy over the top of him. Champion likewise. Ball up.
Well, pretty smart decision-making there, I think, by umpire Nash, because it could easily have been paid a mark, but it did look as if it just squeezed through his hands, and I think Brett Heady has acknowledged that. It hit the ground, and then, well, the Lions were looking for a holding the ball decision, but it was a good decision to throw it up.
Quick kick by Kennedy. Robbins with the quick hands. Clark, skillful. To Champion. McRae. Another good chase by Phil Matera, so the Eagles working hard to put the pressure on the Lions players during possession, and the pace of Phil Matera again causing the turnover. The kick from Waterman finds Donnelly. Umpire calls play on. Donnelly's run over his mark, then kicks up towards Heady, but leading in the race to the ball and taking a good mark in the conditions is Matty Kennedy.
An interesting first quarter here at the Gabba. It's been an interesting round to date with a number of coaches having a bit to say, and Richard Champion has juggled that over the line. It's a behind.
And Sandy, can I just say, only Richard could do it that way.
Jakovic coming off the ground again. They're moving him around at the moment, and Ackermanis is on the half-forward flank, and Worsfold is now coming back on.
Thank you, Dipper, and Champs, thank you very much. Yes, we're talking about the coaches having a little bit to say as Robbins gets the hand pass away, and we'll be hearing some of those comments at half-time in this match, so stay with us. Kennedy gives it away to Scott. Pokes it even wider towards Lappin. Had a little look up and lost the ball. A turnover in out for Cousins. He's slumped to the ground. Scott twists out of trouble beautifully. Scott looks towards the half-forward line. A chance now for the Brisbane Lions. As Darryl White is there. White with skill towards goal. Does it as only Darryl White can.
Well, it's just a bit of a fumble by Chris Waterman. It was tough, good tackle there by Chris Scott. He has enjoyed a very good season to date, and he's just kicked the ball into that space once again. There was the ball that was overrun, and lurking at the back was Darryl White, and he made the most of it.
Darryl White, 1 possession, 1 goal, ties it up here at the Gabba, and he's one of the players that is certainly enjoying the change of coach. 4 goals last week. We're back in the centre. Phil Reid with his 6th possession. Coming through is Heady. Ashcroft is tackled and goes to ground, and the ball goes no further.
Interesting matchup. Trying to get John Worsfold onto Daniel Bradshaw. Just not sure that John Worsfold's going to have the pace to go with Bradshaw. In fact, now he's picking up young Simon Black, who's pushed into the middle of the ground.
Heady, bullocking work, but it's read by Black for the Lions. He kicks it up high. The contest. Ackermanis punches it down to Darryl White. The short little give, not far enough for Bamford. Coming through McKenna with his experience locking it up. And again, we're going nowhere. The scores are tied with 2.5 minutes remaining in this first quarter. The rain still teeming down, not heavy, but consistent and persistent. Umpires Mitchell, Nash and Love in control. Simmons the tap. Tap back by Reid, a little bit dangerous. Umpires picked out a holding free kick against White, and Waterman will receive.
He's at half-back, Waterman. Looks towards centre wing. Donnelly provides the lead. Lappin does the roving work for the Brisbane Lions. Penetrating hand pass is okay to Marcus Ashcroft. These are an important couple of minutes. The diving attempt was good, but the mark wasn't taken by Waterman. It's taken over the line once more for a throw-in. Left forward pocket for the Brisbane Lions.
Well, that was a desperation dive there by Chris Waterman, and he may well have saved his side a goal because it was heading towards one of the Brisbane Lions. And a smart kick by Chad Morrison to get the safety of the boundary line.
From the throw-in, Robbins at the back. With him is McKenna. Hart comes in over the top. There'll be another bounce. Of course, also tonight in Saturday Night Footy, speaking with Scott Palmer at half-time. And as we do have the Victorian Chairman of Selectors with us, it'll be interesting to know if there are any whispers of any additions perhaps to the squad. So stay with us for that at half-time. I'm sure the facts will come out. Here's a chance now for the Brisbane Lions. Lepic tries to bend one back, but he can't. And another behind goes on the board with 1.5 minutes remaining. Of course, St Kilda beaten today, so there could be a question mark fitness-wise over a couple of players. Robert Harvey could be one of those. But it'll all be divulged, Matthew, at half-time.
It certainly will, and we wait with bated breath as Lepic has put the Lions in front. McIntosh with a short kick, a little bit of byplay between Lepic and Ashcroft after that kick.
Any danger of you gentlemen concentrating on the game at hand?
Looking after your game, Jared. It's a big one next week, and you'll see it exclusively on 7.
We certainly will. 50-metre penalty against the Lions, so with just over a minute remaining, 1:20 remaining, it could be costly. But Chad Morrison, again, the Eagles attacking through the outer side. Philip Matera's made some space and marks on the chest. A kick to the contest again. Pack forms. Lappin is there. Through his legs, the tunnel ball towards Brad Scott. A little bit slippery. Champion with the tunnel ball again. Maybe it's a new training regime. Kennedy gives it up. Here's the kick forward by the West Coast across the face. And Fraser Gehrig, no score there.
I thought it was evident when Chris Scott burst through that pack on centre wing about 2 minutes ago and got a hard ball forward that his teammates lifted. He is one of those players that may well be destined for captaincy of this club at some stage, or certainly a leadership position.
And certainly with Michael Voss being injured, he's taken that role on and done so successfully. The Lions are trying to clear. But here's a chance for the Eagles. It comes to John Worsfold. He hooks it round towards the centre. Inside the 50. Up they go. Dick Voss in front. Heady, the quick kick from the pack. Just wide. And another boundary. Yes, no. A behind Wool score to Brett Heady.
Just at the back of the base of the pack is Brett Heady, and that's, well, often where he is at his best. And Roger Merritt down on the boundary pretty early, has made the long traipse down from the bleachers here at the Woolloongabba. He can't get at his charges quick enough.
Lawrence is able to scoot clear despite the attention of Matera and find Hart almost down to centre wing. Time for them to score if they're good enough. They'll need a couple of big grabs or someone running on. Light bamper down towards the 50. He was held and he'll get the free kick. He's outside 50. He's got to be quick. Swings it in towards full forward now. McIntosh, the diving attempt was good enough to hop it as Leppich wobbles it through after the siren has sounded. So Roger Merritt ambles out to meet his charges at quarter time here at the Gabba. And it can't get any closer. Scotty Clayton is there with him, whilst Mickey Malthouse and the West Coast hierarchy make their way out onto the ground. Rain continuing to fall somewhat lightly now. But a good close first quarter. 3 goals apiece with Daniel Bradshaw, the only multiple scorer on the ground. At quarter time, it's tied up at 3-3 apiece.
I really am a little bit amazed. I saw the training schedule for the Victorian side. I'm an advocate of the state of origin and playing, but I think those people have got to be very mindful of the fact that they can't complain if they're going to have a training schedule that just is just over the top. I mean, they're training every day. The schedule we've got is that they have medical and then train at the MCG on Monday, train Tuesday, train Wednesday, catch the plane to Brisbane on Thursday, train Thursday afternoon and play Friday. Now, I mean, at the end of the day, they're just making a rod for their own back. I mean, it's just absolutely stupidity.
Welcome back to the Gabba as the skipper of the Whitman's Lightship does a wonderful job on this wintry old night. The rain continuing to fall, but a good tight contest is unfolding. 3-3 apiece, with Bradshaw getting 2, Darryl White 1 for the Brisbane Lions, whilst for West Coast all singles, Heady, Banfield and Fraser Gehrig. 3-3 apiece. Let's go down to the boundary line. The man who's playing Cinderella all this week is the Dipper.
Yeah, thanks very much, Sandy. Look, the rain.
What about the song?
Look, okay. On the footy ferry, as you can see, I've just rocked in from the MCG. What I saw was really good. Hawthorn thrashing Collingwood. They were the days, weren't they? But the rain has stopped, which is good news. But Roger Merritt did say to his players, look, I know he understands the ball is wet, but he just wants his players to slow the play down and have a bit more ball security, because the lesser possessions and the deeper kick in the goal have more opportunities to kick in goals. And obviously the centre half forward for West Coast, the centre half back position for West Coast has been changed around a few times. They're trying to run Djakovic into the middle of the ground, but he's such a great player that they're just trying to get him out of the play. But a very good game so far, Sandy.
Thank you, Dipper. As we got the second quarter underway, this is Matthew Clark kicking the Brisbane Lions deep into their attacking zone. A big torpedo down to half forward. McIntosh takes it off the hands of the pack, defends towards McKenna at half back, pops another one wide towards Metropolis. He sockers off the ground on the half volley, taken over the line, and there'll be a throw in with Mr. Cousins doing the sliding. 3-3 apiece as we go into the second quarter here at the Gabba. The round, of course, set to continue tomorrow, round 15, and you'll see those big games on 7. Just check your local guides wherever you may be viewing right around the country. Simmons towards the line, and also going with him is Simon Black.
And Andrew Williams is onto the ground for the West Coast Eagles. His first run at AFL football. As we have a look at the Lions bench. There he is, being picked up by Matthew Kennedy. He looks a pretty fair athlete.
Comes over the back of the boundary throw-in. Cousins to Worsfold along the ground. The contest there, and once more another boundary throw-in, which in a night like tonight when the ball is a little bit slippery, we see many boundary throw-ins as sides look to just defend to the boundary line. Djakovic back on the bench with Stone.
And Fuster, another option up forward if they need it, or in fact in the ruck.
Ackermanis with the quick little kick around the body. Cousins going back to lend a hand. Umpire says Brad Scott was holding him, and Brad Scott, who has now 10 free kicks for and 23 against, so not a good stat that Brad would be happy with. We go to the wing. Donnelly slides into the ball. Lappin comes across him, too high. And again the free kick as the Eagles break forward. Up to Heady, drops a simple chest mark. Reed being held. In there with him is Ashcroft for the Lions, and another ball up.
Well, it's a pretty small half-forward line for the West Coast Eagles. And maybe if, with Glenn Djakovic sitting on the bench, we know it's been a long-standing argument as to whether or not he could play at centre-half forward, but better to have him on the ground, one would think, rather than having him off.
Robbins tried to get the initial hand pass out to Marcus Ashcroft. Unable to clear it. And another bounce. There is Mr. Djakovic with Dean Kemp. Also now on the bench, but it's on the 50 at the moment, and the youngster drops his first possession, and his immediate opponent sockers it off the ground back towards the centre, picked up by Scott. Scott gives it away towards Black. He looks down towards half forward. Bradshaw's on the lead, and he takes the mark. 50 out.
Just a couple of danger signs I thought there for the Eagles. The Lions just look to have a little bit more run, a little bit more desire to run in straight lines and attack the footy, and this is a good build-up.
Bradshaw going for his third, and a chance to break the deadlock here at the Gabba. Kicking from 49 metres, long drop punt going across the face of goal, and Guy McKenna sees it over the line in the back pocket.
Dean Kemp back on the ground, so he's only there for a couple of seconds, but lots of interchange for the Eagles tonight.
Ball again, trying to get the right hand to it. Matera with a backhand swat. Morrison gets it down. Now McKenna to clear, coming wide towards centre wing. Heady leads in the race but goes to ground, and the ball wobbles over the line for a throw in on centre wing in front of Kennedy.
Sandy, just confirming Alistair Lynch has done his hamstring, just for those Lions supporters back home.
Okay, that's bad news, isn't it, for Alistair? He's had a rotten old run. As Matty said, second time that he's done it this year. Sean Hart tries to get it towards Ashcroft. Cousins soccers off the ground, but straight to Danny Dick Foss. Dick Foss plays on quickly to Kennedy. Matty Kennedy from half back looks to convert towards right half forward. How's that for in the back? And Chris Sott says, thank you, Mr. Morrison. I'll take the free kick on centre wing. Well, it was an interesting sight.
Yeah, he certainly put a saddle on him and rode him into the ground, but outside the laws.
Bradshaw, a big flyer. Hart slaps it on there. There was a very, very clever attempt towards Ackermanis. Bampert gets caught. Simmons comes in over the top, then asks the question. The ball is pushed wide. Bradshaw will get another chance. He snaps from the pocket, bending it back, but only for one behind. 3-4. Plays 3-3.
And the crowd enjoying this break in the rain. Now it's dried up. Well, let's hope it remains that way. The short kick finds Guy McKenna, getting plenty of possession in this second quarter. He clears to the centre wing, looking for ball. Clark does well to get in front. Now, Chris Scott has taken high, but Clark was also taken high, but Chris Scott, the recipient. He started well. He gives it to his twin. He wasn't expecting it. So problems for the Scott boys, but they're going to mop it up. Brad Scott now swings onto the left, kicks it forward, up, and taking the mark is Craig McRae.
Peter Matera, his direct opponent, just standing motionless at the base of the pack.
McRae forward looking for White. There's a bit of a nudge. McIntosh does well to come back and take the mark. He's had a terrific year, Ashley McIntosh. Swings it to his skipper and John Worsfold. The running player there is Morrison. Morrison, a bit too far for Heady, and Kennedy the mark. So Matt Kennedy, traditionally a long kick, up towards 50. It's 2-on-1. White will never get there. Coming through is Black. Hard to lend support. McRae goes off the ground. It goes forward to 1-on-1. Lepage there with McIntosh. Lepage knocks it towards the boundary. He tries to provide the shepherd for Hart, but it is another boundary throw.
Well, Guy McKenna launching this one, and well, I guess the Lion supporters in the stand were a little bit concerned that that wasn't paid as a free kick.
Boundary throw in. White punches into the space, but Matera there for the Eagles. Kicks to the outer side. Black leads in the race for the ball. Simon Black, he has time to look up, steady, and kick. Oh, terrific effort. Now, he may have hurt himself. That was Simmons going back for that. He's in a bit of bother, but McRae picks it up, goes along the ground. Here's a chance for Bradshaw to kick his third around the body, and it's a goal. No. Well, I thought it was a goal, didn't I?
So did most people, I think, as we see Paul Simmons getting off the ground. This really would have hurt. In basketball terms, he was tunneled. His legs were taken away from him. And, well, that was a pretty serious occurrence, but fortunately he's up and around and probably just winded.
One behind. The end result is Johnny Worsfold swings it towards centre wing. Donnelly and Dick Foss, two of the flyers. Dick Foss pushes it forward to Robbins, gives it off to Bampel. He looks towards full forward. No one at home, however, and a thumping mark has gone, a thumping belt by Matera. There's been a free kick for a push. And so that man who did belt it over the line will get a chance to clear with no addition to the score.
Well, they're just trying to hold back the tide here, the West Coast Eagles. They're doing a pretty good job in defence, but unless they can get some football in their own forward line, it'll only be a matter of time before the Lions penetrate.
Ball from the back pocket. 2 points the margin. Bamfield unattended and unopposed. He gives it away quickly towards Kemp, who kicks it in towards the middle. Now they've got a chance to go forward through Reid, just forward of the centre. Back once again to Dean Kemp. He looks inside 50, needs a lead from Fraser Garrick, but it's going to come back. All that for nothing. So back it comes with 13 3/4 minutes remaining in this first half. It's the Lions 3-5. The only score this quarter has been 2 behinds from the Brisbane Lions, as a mystified Sean Hart continues to ask several questions of umpire Jamie Love. And in the meantime, Reid will take it from the middle. This time comes towards Garrick once again, who was able to sneak away from Richard Champion. He'll be kicking from the left forward pocket. Only a few construction workers and a cameraman in that area at the moment. He starts at left, it stays left, and fails to score. 3-5, plays 3-3.
Well, he didn't put a lot of time in putting his head down over that football and having a genuine shot at goal. And I guess the result was almost predictable. There's not a great deal of spark about the West Coast Eagles just at the moment, and whilst the Brisbane Lions aren't putting pressure on them on the scoreboard, they do appear to be playing a better brand of footy.
Ben Robbins hugs the boundary looking for Darryl White, and White, who thrills the crowd here at the Gabba every week, and dare I say it, for some of the wrong reasons at times, Sandy. He can do the spectacular, and unfortunately that sort of kick, the not so spectacular.
The enigmatic one.
I knew you were going to say that.
Great to watch, though.
Clark to do better with ball. Ball looking to take possession. In doing so, gives the free kick away to Matt Clark. So he looks up ahead towards Lawrence, and Lawrence marks and backs himself in. Gets a shepherd from White. Kicks to the space. Coming out to meet it. Bradshaw can't take it. Comes to ground. McIntosh is there. With him also is Metropolis. And a ball up just on the offensive 50 there for the Lions. Lions supporters braving the wet weather, have done so already once this season against Richmond, where the Lions were successful. The kick out of defence towards the contest. Going over the back, there is Lawrence. Heady meets him. Kennedy keeps his feet. He's got McRae inside. McRae runs onto his natural left foot. He runs to 55. He can normally kick that far, but Ackermanis waiting for it to come over the back. Simmons, who seems to have recovered from that nasty knock, takes the mark. Chips it wide to Matera, who is McRae's opponent, so he's getting back deep in defence. He kicks long to Banfield. Banfield, it comes off his knee towards Heady. Another clash for Heady. Dick Foster's the Lions player in there hard and going nowhere.
You're spot on, Matty. Every time that Heady goes near the ball, is always in a clash. It's just a very hard play at the ball.
What about at your level, Dipper? Is it just my eyes, or does it look like the Lions are attacking the footy a bit more fiercely?
They are in this quarter, Jerry. They're certainly, their voices are very talkative tonight, and it's a great sign for the Lions, obviously.
Free kick there to the skipper of the Eagles, John Worsfold. But sometimes, Jared, in this situation where you say they're putting the pressure on, not on the scoreboard, occasionally the next goal is scored by the opposition, and it's all to no avail.
Spot on, and well, the Eagles go into attack.
Worsfold towards the 50. Gehrig comes out. Banfield is there, and a boundary throw in just outside the offensive 50 for the West Coast Eagles.
Just over 11 minutes remaining in this first half. Low-scoring first half. Goalless second quarter today. Clark palms it down towards Robbins, who's ridden into the ground. Kennedy sweeps it even wider, and Kemp takes it over with a little bit of pressure coming from Lawrence. Been a good player, Dean Kemp. Norm Smith medalist in 1994. Premiership year for the West Coast Eagles. As Scott, it's Chris, gets it out to Marcus Ashcroft. Okay. Sees McRae out of the side of his eye, and as you heard Gerard Healy, the chairman, say, great kick it was. McRae goes onto the left foot now, in towards centre half forward. Bamford is waiting at the back, and he juggles it. Shades of Beatlemania with that hair, or a short Patrick Rafter, but he's got it inside 50.
Well, it wasn't a great kick, and it did rely on Bamford to do some quite good work in a one-on-one contest against McKenna. The hand was certainly in the placed on the back, but the umpire indicated that there was no infringement. Important kick.
He's kicked 3 goals so far this season. As Gerard said, it is an important kick, and he's done the right thing for the home side. Bamford has kicked his first, and it's taken them a long time after a lot of attacking, Gerard. Finally, they've got one in this term.
Well, that's exactly what they have done, Sandy. They have continued to attack. There's no question that this had been set up on the blackboard before the game, that as soon as the ball's able to be shot out to Chris Bamford, he's going to stay as a beacon on that wing and then just run into the space, and that's exactly what he did. Scotty Bamford goals beautifully.
Scott Bamford getting his first. The Brisbane Lions getting their first for the quarter. 4-5, plays 3-3. Ball got a hand to it, but it's Clark who tries to take it out of the middle. McRae has been in the thick of things and been busy. Sock it off the ground and down towards the forward line. They go charging into attack again. That was through Rory Hilton, who's on the ground. And now taken over. Throw it in, says the umpire.
Pretty smart handball, that one from Ashley McIntosh. He had nowhere to go. He waited for the player just to apply the tackle, and then he handballed it straight over the boundary line.
And still made 20 metres, so he did well. The boundary throw-in. Clark, who is, I think, on top of the boundary throw-ins, is going well. Ashcroft's kick is smothered. Going back, Chris Scott, looking for options. Hooks it round the body. It goes over the back. Matera there. The quick kick goes past Hetty and Hilton. Philip Matera. A throw to Kemp. Play on is the call. Brad Scott there with Cousins. The spoil comes to Banfield. Here's a chance for Cousins. Can he keep his feet? Soccering up the ground is Lappin. Reid and McRae. Reid off the ground as well. Sean Hart getting back in numbers for the Lions and looks for the boundary. Has it got enough on it to make it? I'm not sure. Morrison and Lappin, they both go to ground. Here's a chance again for Reid. Hilton forgets to tackle him. Reid kicks it high. The champion there in front for the Lions takes the mark. He's got Lawrence all alone here. He switched the play successfully. Now Lawrence has 30 metres. Takes a bounce. Runs to the defensive 50. Kicks. Oh, it's a terrible kick. And McKenna. Now they can make them pay here, the Eagles. As Jason Ball kicks it very high. And it's going back Dick Voss. Lappin there. Off the ground. Eagles with the numbers. Here's Philip Matera. He spotted a player out right at Simmons and he found him. And Simmons will now settle it down and steady and take the shot. Just a poor kick from Lawrence coming out of defence.
Yes, it was a loose man there, but Guy McKenna had his eyes on it, and he just gobbled it up and laid it off nicely to ball.
So Paul Simmons, plenty of possession last week, will now kick from about 50 metres or right on the line. Simmons' kick. Is it going to make it? It certainly is. They're happy with it, and Simmons gets the Eagles' fourth goal.
Oof, well, she took a long time to come, the Eagles' first goal in this second quarter. And I'll tell you what, it's a nice old struggle here. There's nothing too flash about this game. But the scoreboard, as always, when the Eagles are playing nice and tight, so we are in for a very close finish. But that was a brilliant finish by Paul Simmons. Go back.
Back to a two-point ball game here at the Gabba. Good goal from Simmons. Ball, Soccer's off the ground, down towards Drew Banfield at half forward. No one going past as they pounce upon it. Here's a opportunity now for Kemp. Picks it up and chips it high. Lawrence going with the flight of the ball showed courage. Could have almost picked up a free kick. Doesn't get one, and may well ask the question.
Well, Michael Braun did attack the contest pretty harshly. And the Lions supporters were calling for an interference decision.
Mick Malthouse looks on, approaching a major milestone, about to join the 350-game club as far as coaches are concerned, as Ashcroft looks to make valuable ground. There's been a free kick. It might be down the ground, going the way of the Brisbane Lions for interference by Jamie Love. Just giving the details as Roger Merritt. And the coaching staff look on. Oh, there's a big fly, I think, from Lepage. Simmons tries to get through, runs into a brick wall, and is going nowhere.
And Jakovic on the ground now playing full forward for the West Coast.
2 points the margin. The Lions lead. Ball, a little bit of fancy work. Twists and turns toward Hetty. Couldn't pick it up on the half volley. Lawrence does very well. Gets through some pretty heavy traffic and kicks towards centre wing. Lepage could have been shoved in the back, but in the meantime, play goes on. Black goes down towards the forward line. Bradshaw is lurking there. Simmons can take the hand pass. There's been a whistle. The umpire is going to pay the advantage to the West Coast Eagles. Morrison takes the mark. Kemp says go, and he does. Kemp supplies the shepherding. Morrison chips towards Garrick down on centre wing, and he marks in front of Richard Champion.
So Fraser Garrick is a long way from home. He's actually on the defensive side of centre. Kicks looking for Banfield. He's going to arrive late. Lappin stands his ground, can't quite mark. Bamford to provide support. Ashcroft in fine form last week. Spots Richard Champion, and Richard Champion cannot take the mark. And right here in front of the 7 commentary position will be a boundary throw-in. Craig McRae having a spell on the bench.
Peter Matera's gone into a defensive area on Johnson.
Lovely tap by Kemp. Finds McKenna. His kick around the body to Heady. It's the old firm. Kemp, McKenna, Heady. But Heady can't score. It goes across the face of goal. Kennedy. Is he going to be run down? No. He's got no one to kick to, so he searches for the boundary. Tries to make about 50 metres. It rolls end over end and rolls over the line. So a good defensive kick by Matty Kennedy.
Brett Heady obviously would be disappointed with that shot at goal. It was all there for him. He elected to play on and put a bit of pressure on himself and just couldn't quite convert it.
Lappin, kick around the body, only as far as Chad Morrison. So Morrison with a kick. Goal's hard to come by here, especially when you kick the ground before you kick the ball. Replace the divot as Kemp slides across the oval and finds McKenna. McKenna has Heady on the lead. The goal square is clear. He sees that, tries the torpedo. Gary gets back, comes over the back of him. Cousins, who's been well held by Brad Scott. And Brad Scott taps it over the boundary line. Cousins 2 and 4, as we've got 5 minutes to play in the second quarter.
In the left forward pocket then for the Eagles, an opportunity for them to score. Donnelly tries to take it out of the air, not successful. Quick kick comes straight to McKenna. Thought about playing on, but now goes back. Matera calls for it to be centred. He goes even shorter, finds Waterman. The left footer will go from 55 metres, and he pumps it long and high. Wants a mark with a big pack of players. They pounce upon it now. And eventually it's threaded towards Bamford in the back pocket. He looks towards half-back, towards Dion Scott. Scots are everywhere tonight, and there'll be another throw-in. Dion, Chris and Brad all in action here at the Gabba, where if you've just tuned in, a 2-point ball game sees the Lions lead. Scott tries to tap it down to Ashcroft. He controlled it well and kicks up towards Lepic, who's a long way from home. Has a look in towards half forward. Needs a big mark off. Bradshaw the play! Daniel Bradshaw had a charge at that ball. Plays on now, goes into the pocket, and we'll have a throw-in. But frequent flyer points there for Daniel.
Yeah, he's a talented player, isn't he? And one of the reasons why the Brisbane Lions haven't achieved what most pundits thought they would before the season is that his form has been down, but that's what he can do. He can kick goals and he can mark the ball with great dexterity. So everyone looks forward to the day when he really does hit his straps.
Black on the bottom of that pack, takes it over the line. Another throw in, under 4 minutes remaining in this first half. Nick Stone coming onto the ground as Jakovic swipes it out the back door, and Simmons soccers off the ground. He too gains 25 metres. Reid is lurking there. A couple of Brisbane Lions almost collide in their anxiety to go over that ball. Black picks himself up on the right of screen, and there'll be another throw in.
And it appears as if Glenn Jakovic has gone into the ruck.
Spot on, Jared.
And he'll do battle with Dion Scott. Scott lays it off to Hart. Hart gets the kick forward. Bradshaw coming in. Matera also there, takes the defensive option.
Yeah, ball's off the ground now. Jakovic in the ruck, and Stone's now gone to the forward line.
2 points the margin, as we see Andrew Williams preparing to come back on the ground as well. Rain is back and flowing here at the Gabba. Over the back is Bradshaw. Metropolis there. A tackle by Hart on Reid. And much to the delight of this wet Gabba crowd, Sean Hart receives the free kick. Hart has got a lead. He's got Ackermanis and finds him. And Ackermanis within range should kick from about just over 40 metres. Has run into some form, Jason Ackermanis. Whether it coincides with the change in coach, one will only know, but his last 2 or 3 weeks have been excellent. And certainly using his pace to damage the other teams. So the man affectionately known as Akka pushes it too wide. Does it stay in play? Well, McIntosh decides it will. A little bit of arrogance on the last line of defence there by the Eagles, but they'll run it out through Matera, and Matera goes wide and finds Drew Banfield. Banfield, poor kick along the ground. Here's a chance now for the Lions to make them pay. Hilton does well, keeps cool under pressure, kicks up high, coming out again Bradshaw. To the ground, Simmons. Waterman, long handball towards Jakovic. Umpire's found another free kick. It's going back, and it's going to go to Waterman, is it?
Spares in the middle, but I think it was a downfield job, Matthew.
Yep.
Chris Mitchell just saying that the free kick was for a push or maybe something else.
Yes, I think maybe something else.
Waterman takes it and gives it to Jakovic, so away he goes. Glenn Jakovic from fullback looks towards Cousins. Scott is an effective spoiler on him, pushes over the line. Don't forget at half-time some interesting comments from several of our coaches after round 15. Continued today. A lot of pointing going on, not a lot being said, not a lot being done. And the crowd wanting some action. So a throw-in finally gets underway. Jakovic and Dion Scott. Chris Scott tries to soccer off the ground. McKenna's kick was smothered. Kemp, Bamford. Almost taken high was Morrison, and he's going to get a free kick. He's down on half-back. Donnelly offers him a lead on centre wing. And he heads towards the wing. Donnelly's got to drop back on the pack. That's a fine mark taken by Danny Dickfoss, whose aerial work is very good. Fine player is Dickfoss. Wonderful author. Kicks towards Chris Scott. Scott looks towards the forward zone once again. Needs a mark down in that forward line. There's a bit of pushing and shoving going on from Big Dion, but play goes on. So he leans back and he goes in towards full forward, where it's belted over the line from a big pack of players. Throw in the right forward pocket. Jared, your thoughts here?
Well, I thought initially it was a push in the back, but it looked like it was more side there, so good strength there by Dion Scott. I'll tell you what, without Ashley McIntosh, the Eagles will be 3 or 4 goals down at the moment.
Bradshaw tries to sneak it away to Johnson. His little chip goes in towards Hilton, and Hotel loses it to Ashcroft. Goes back in towards full forward once again. Darryl White is lurking there ever dangerously. Can't get a crack at it. And there'll be another ball up. Inside the last 50 seconds of this first half. Alistair Lynch, if you've just joined us, did a hamstring. Tragically, very early on in this game, the opening few minutes. Jakovic soccers off the ground. Morrison can't complete the juggle. Play goes on. Black twisting, turning, dodging, weaving, and puts through another behind.
Simon Black just finding himself there with a little bit more room than he thought, and decided, well, I might as well have a shot. The Eagles will run it out. 3 points the margin, nearing half-time. Waterman's kick goes over the top of Lawrence. There's time for the Eagles. Banfield kicks up forward, but Champion comes out to meet it. Can't quite complete the mark. Kennedy back with him. Kennedy does well. He's playing well off Eddie Kennedy, and as soon as I say that, he pops it into the new stand, which is being built, and so a man with a helmet will probably have to go and get the ball. Just a few seconds remaining, and there is that man in question.
The helmeted one.
And if you're just tuning on, we have not been invaded by aliens. So seconds remaining, and just the 2 goals this quarter, 1 apiece to either side. Nick Stone.
Well, the Eagles almost have to just take another mark.
Take a mark, yeah.
Or slide one through from the back.
Stone runs around, hooks it in towards the goal square. Here's the chance. It goes over the back, and a behind does result. So that is half-time. 2 points now is the margin as the Eagles get their 4th behind. They are 4 goals 4, trailing the Lions 4 goals 6.
Well, she's a do-or-old slog out there in this second term. and both clubs will be looking for an improved performance in the second half. So after just 2 goals, Sandy, I think the positive is it can only get better.
Yes, Jared, you're right. Tight contest here in this first half at the Gabba. Difficult scoring conditions and plenty of pressure on both sides. Of course, the West Coast realise victory tonight will give them a great chance of a top 4 finish, and that's what they want in the West. Okay, mate.
Half-time here at the Gabba, a low-scoring affair, as the chairman would describe it. 4-6 plays 4-4, with the Brisbane Lions showing the way at the moment. Let's talk about the round as it has unfolded so far today. And we know that at Waverley, 36,557. I thought they would have drawn more.
Yeah, disappointing crowd.
St Kilda and North Melbourne, Heatley, Winmar and Mitchell each booted 2 for the Saints. Wayne Carey booted 6 in an outstanding performance for North Melbourne. And Winston booted 5. But Stan Alves had something to say after this game about, Chairman, the State of Origin training schedule. Have a listen to this.
I really am a little bit amazed. I saw the training schedule for the Victorian side. I'm an advocate of the State of Origin and playing. But I think those people have got to be very mindful of the fact that they can't complain if they're going to have a training schedule that just is just over the top. I mean, they're training every day. I mean, the schedule we've got is that they have medical and then train at the MCG on Monday, train Tuesday, train Wednesday, catch the plane to Brisbane on Thursday, train Thursday afternoon and play Friday. Now, I mean, at the end of the day, they're just making a rod for their own back. I mean, it's just absolutely stupidity.
You are the chairman of selectors. How do you answer that?
Well, I think on behalf of Lee Matthews, I think as a premiership coach, you'd be pretty cognizant of what's required to get a side up in a short week, and because it says training doesn't mean the boys are going to be out flogging themselves. And I think Stan, when he discusses it with Lee Matthews, and hopefully he does, would be pretty happy with what he sees these boys doing.
In fact, at the MCG, there were more people for the Essendon-Port clash than the Waverley one. And it saw Essendon get up over Port, not without a struggle. 16-12, Lloyd and Cockatoo Collins each booted 3. For Port, Treadray booted 4 of their 12-12-9. And once again, Kevin Sheedy was in fine fettle behind the microphone.
Oh, look, I mean, I'm not having a shot at Dennis. I'm just letting Miller and any other smart aleck administrators around clubs. I mean, I don't mind taking criticism from good, strong North Melbourne people like Aylett or Cheatley or, you know, players like ex-players. But to listen to Dawson, Dawson to me he'd be a pink marshmallow, Dawson, and Miller would be a white marshmallow. I mean, that's about where I see those two softies, you know, when it gets down to that sort of stuff. I mean, he's probably just chairman selectors because he's got an investment in the club. What pitch he wants to be good. And probably ended up at the end of his career, went to Port Adelaide to find out what football's about, Dawson.
And that's the man who gave us the Martians.
Well, coach is in good form, obviously.
He certainly is. The Bulldogs also were in pretty good form today, especially in the last quarter when they booted 6. They finished victorious 12-11 in front of over 20,000 fans at Optus. Montgomery and Grant each booted 3 of those 12, whilst for Melbourne, Anthony McDonald and Bradley booted 2 of the 9. 12-11 plays 9-11. We're going to take a break here from the Gabba. Back with more shortly.
Much.
Scotty, can you hear me, mate?
Yes, Sandy. How are you, mate?
Very, very well. What news have you got, Scotty?
Well, I've got a packet of marshmallows here, pink and white ones. So
I start on that.
yeah, start on that one, okay?
Right. No news on the state of origin, mate.
Yes, I've got that. There's a furor over Wayne Carey. He's certain to miss.
Righto.
He was best on the ground today. The doctor's come out and said that he's been taking painkillers for the last 3 matches.
Righto.
And he gives a quote. Dennis Pagan answered some very tense questions there over Wayne Carey. Got a bit heated there in the press conference.
Righto.
Then Robert Harvey's going to miss 2.
Right.
We've spoken to the doctor there, Rowan White, aggravated his ankle. We've spoken to Harvey. Stan Elves, apart from what he said there, talked about the game today. He said 1 week at the top and they start to believe their own publicity. And Pagan said, I coach terrific when Wayne Carey takes 14 marks and kicks 6 goals. And he said, our blokes are really best when their backs are to the wall, and we're virtually back together again now.
Yeah, right.
The Sheedy thing, of course, blew up in the press conference, but Sheedy said that the Bombers tackled harder, they did everything harder today,
Yep.
and you know, he's very pleased. We tackled better, we got the lift we needed, our smothering was better. The second half we lost a bit, but it's great to be back. Johnny Carl not disappointed, although Braden Lyle's flown home tonight with a broken cheekbone, and Big Pearl's got a broken thumb. Mead's got a hamstring, so they're in a bit of a war zone over there.
Yeah, so we've got Elves, Pagan, Sheeds, Cale.
And then a bit on the Western Bulldogs, suffering mid-season blues, midwinter blues, but they still got up and won. Terry Wallace said that's great. Danaher very pleased with the Demons' effort. They just ran out of legs. 6 days break between Perth. But they get all their players back after the break, Sandy.
Righto, mate.
But I will start on the
marshmallows.
I've got a
packet of them.
I've got a packet here. I've got the pink and the white ready,
Righto,
and I've spoken to the white. I've spoken to the white at the auction tonight.
Oh, righto.
Yeah.
And what did the white have to say?
Well, the white said Sheedy's making a fool of himself.
Sheedy's making a fool of himself. Good stuff. That's all we want.
Is that right?
Yeah, fire up, mate.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks very much, Braddles. When's Mitsubishi? Yeah, then the Mitsubishi. flags.
Okay, mate.
No, we just got to keep it up.
In the way tonight. Can't move the injury.
Half-time here at the Gabba, 2 points the margin. The Lions leading in a tight one, 4-6-30 to the West Coasters, 4-4-28. Time now for another Mitsubishi moment. Time to spend some time with our very own Lee Matthews when he had the boots on.
The Hawks proud Essendon this day in 1982 when the man they called lethal made his mark.
The strange thing was that I didn't realise I'd actually snapped the point post until I saw the replay after the game. I remember stepping on the boundary umpire's foot. I remember him hopping up and down in pain. That was my main memories of the actual moment.
While Matthews went on to become a legend of the AFL, the post now resides in the Mountain View Hotel in Richmond, lovingly cared for by another old legend, Ron Barassi.
I got the offending article, and it's a great piece of memorabilia. It's up here at the Mountain View, and I'm very glad I got it.
Talk about a he-man! How was that? He split it right down to the heart. Lee Matthews, a Mitsubishi memorable moment.
And interesting to see in that picture, big Roger Merritt, now in charge, of course, of the Brisbane Lions. And the only other man who could break a behind post like that is joining us now from the Sunday Herald Sun, Scotty Palmer. Scotty, what did you have for dinner tonight?
Isn't this football great, Sandy? I went out and bought some marshmallows tonight.
White or pink?
I've got the white one there and I've got the pink one down here, Sandy. Have a look at that,
Yeah.
the pink and the white.
And I believe the white one's been talking.
Actually, I had a word to the white one just a minute ago.
What did it say?
At the North Melbourne auction, Greg Miller, he said, I can't understand Kevin Sheedy. He said, we've made no criticism at all. He said he's making the whole thing up and he's making a fool of himself, Sandy. But the marshmallows, they taste good.
Look, enjoy those. Now, before we get on to what's happening today in round 15, what about State of Origin news? Because there's a bit happening.
Well, it's on again, the furor over Wayne Carey. And it's certain now that he'll miss that Allies game in State of Origin.
He booted 6 today. It was sensational.
Yeah, best on the ground and 6 goals today. But it's a touchy subject at Waverley all day. The Dr. Harry Unglet disclosed that Carey's been playing for the last 3 games with painkillers in his hip. And he said, quote, we can't tell you exactly what the problem is because we don't want him to become a target. Denis Pagan also had to answer some real tense questions in the press conference. Got a bit nasty in there. He said Carey's withdrawal, and it's the 4th time I might add, would be genuine, and he didn't know any player who played under more duress than his captain. And he said Carey also had groin and Achilles tendon problems.
So, Scotty, Carey out. What about Robert Harvey? That's out over him too, isn't there?
Yeah, he's expected to pull out as well. Saints Dr. Rowan White said today that the Brownlow medalist had aggravated his ankle badly today. And Harvey said, quote, I'd love to play, but I have to do what's best for myself and for the Saints. And Max Hutchin, of course, he could miss the chance to play with the Big V because of a jarred knee, Sam.
Scotty, before you go on, I might have a scoop for you. I know you're the king of them.
I love a scoop.
I've got the chairman of selectors of Victoria here in Gerard Healy, and he has informed me, while we're talking about North Melbourne, that Mickey Martin has been added to the squad.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm not too sure where he's going to play in Wayne Carey's position, though.
I didn't say he was going to play in that position, Scotty. I said he'd been added to the squad. Now, let's talk about St Kilda and North today. What did the prospective coaches, Messrs Alves and Pagan, have to say after what turned out to be a very convincing and one-sided affair?
Yeah, Alves said that the 1 week at the top and the Saints had started to believe their own publicity, Sandy. He said, we're off the boil for course, and he said, North were absolutely superb. Denis Pagan said, look, I can coach terrific when Wayne Carey takes 14 marks and kicks 6 goals. But he said when our backs are to the wall, that's when North perform best, Sand, and they did today.
Johnny Carl's got a few injury problems, I believe.
Yes, a few blokes flew home tonight. Braden Lyle, of course, suspected fractured cheekbone. He's looking very doubtful. Big Pearl's got a suspected broken thumb, and Mead's got a hamstring. So they're in a bit of the wars over there.
And what about the Western Bulldogs winning, but still got those midwinter blues?
Midwinter blues, but he said Terry Wallace that a good side wins when they're underdeveloped. And he said, you know, we went through some bad patches today, but we still got out of it. And, of course, Neil Danaher, he said the Demons were fantastic, very proud of them. He said we ran out of legs, but he said he attributed that to the fact that they only had 6 days break between that game in Perth last week, Sam.
Scotty, before I go, and you've got the marshmallows, haven't you?
I've got them.
I've only got one thing to say.
I'm going to have one now, Sandy.
Keep lunching.
On munching.
Keep lunching.
Don't break.
Oh, dear. It's a nightmare, isn't it? We're going to take a break. 2 points is the margin here at the Gabba at half-time. Second half coming away on 7's Saturday Night Football shortly.
Welcome back to the Gabba. We've got a low-scoring, tight contest underway here at the moment. There's 2 points separating the Brisbane Lions and the West Coast Eagles. The Lions leading 4-6 to 4-4. Don't forget, talking footy, Malcolm Blight spent time on the couch in years gone by. Well, he is back there now as a guest this Monday, and there you can see the times: 10:40 in Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth, 11:25 Tassie, 11:45 Sydney and Queensland. That is Talking Footy coming away on 7 each and every Monday night. We didn't get a report from Dipper as to who he thought could win this game at the start. What does he think at half-time? Who can win it, Dipper?
I think the team who kicks the next 2 goals could actually win this game. I think it's a very close game, but I think
Can I rephrase it, Dipper? Who have you got your money on?
West Coast will win this game, and obviously the bench is coming in big play in this quarter, because you've got Djakovic on the bench for West Coast, and unfortunately for Lynch, his hamstring is not going to play again tonight.
Well, the ball has been bounced, and we're back in the third quarter with Ben Cousins, who runs it out to Ashley McIntosh, who Jared said in that second quarter has been superb for the Eagles this evening. He again doesn't take the chest mark. Braun around the body. Brad Scott leading in the race for the ball with Kemp. Scott sees it over the boundary line.
And we've seen a number of pretty simple chest marks taken, which I think perhaps reflects so well on the weather conditions. It is a very poor night for football here, and let's hope that the players can control a little bit better in this second half.
Danny Dickfoss leads it out for the Lions. Ackermanis finds, who's changed to the long sleeve jumper. An ambitious kick finds Chris Scott, who had a very good first half, 13 possessions. Chris Scott. He's got Chris Johnson all alone out here on the half-forward flank. Johnson marks, plays on, decides to go to the Bradshaw direction, but misses him as Bradshaw almost jumps over the construction fence. But a poor kick there from Chris Johnson, and he knows it as well as anyone else.
But that kick's gone, hasn't it? You've just got to get on with the business now of getting the footy again and getting the ball to your teammates.
Rain has picked up a little bit during half-time, so it's a little bit heavier than it was at the end of the second quarter. The boundary throw-in. White to do battle with Waterman. Matera tries to go off the ground. It comes to Sean Hart. He threads one through to Ackermanis. He's under pressure, gets the quick kick, but just to the left, and a behind will result. So the first score of the second half to Jason Ackermanis. The Lions lead by 3.
Phil Reid off the ground for the Eagles. He's one player that has attacked the footy pretty hard. He's only had the 8 possessions, but he's burrowing in and getting the ball out to his teammates. And certainly a number of the Eagles are going to have to lift, particularly some senior players in the middle of the ground, if in fact they're going to win this game.
McIntosh to Waterman to Simmons, who has it now at half-back for the Eagles. He's got Waterman running on through, pops it onto the left foot, kicks towards the middle. Heady does the roving work at the back, off to Kemp. Good vision by Kemp to find Braun going past. 65 metres from home. A long bomb in towards full forward. Gehrig's was an interesting leap, to say the least. He'll give away a free kick.
50.
Well, that's unfortunate, because the Eagles had an excellent opportunity there of converting.
But it's a bit one-dimensional, their attack into the forward line. Fraser Gehrig, it's not his strength kicking the ball up over his head, allowing him to take a Wayne Carey type mark. He's more a leading type, someone like a Jason Dunstall, who likes the ball out in front. And that just isn't kicking it to the Eagles' strength.
Champion towards Bradshaw, was in front, got a hand to it, but it's Simmons who tied his up for Kemp. Goes to the outer side. Morrison lurking between half-back and centre wing in front of Brett Heady. Just tried to soccer it along and keep it in play, but there's been a free kick anyway. I think it's gone against Kennedy.
Sure why.
Or was it Lawrence? Might have gone against Lawrence, but we can't quite pick up for what reason. Dick Foss, well, he should have taken that, was unattended. Gehrig went in there, was unable to get a clean shot at it. Scott gets a hurried kick, comes back towards the centre. Here's an opportunity now for Worsfold. Johnny Worsfold in towards right half forward, and Fraser Gehrig marks just inside 50.
This is where he's a far better player, when he gets out and finds some space. I think the Eagles need a Fuster or a Jason Ball just to be standing in the goal square to bring the ball to ground if in fact they can't mark it, and get a Phil Matera or a Peter Matera at their feet and picking up some crumbing goals.
Fraser's kick goes across the face of goal. Huge pack of players there. Williams tries to get a snap at it. He can't do so. Matera does, but it's wide, too wide. And Lappin will bring it back into play and take off some of the pressure. Well, it was Phil Matera, not Peter. He finds Clark just outside 50, and they're out of trouble.
McRae with a long clearing kick for the Lions. Waterman over the top of White. Lepage comes through. Ackermanis getting hold of the ball in this third term. Inside the 50, Bradshaw with Metropolis over the back. No mark there. Bradshaw applies the tackle. Waterman will clear for the Eagles. A short kick to McIntosh. Another short kick from him. Put Phil Matera under pressure, but he does well with Ashcroft coming in late. Philip Matera in the outer wing. And this has been a similar situation, Jared, where they're just looking up, looking for options up forward and holding onto the ball.
Yeah, done very well from centre-back, but struggled from centre-forward.
Brad Scott, the poor handball gives Dean Kemp a chance. Scott trying to make amends for the error. Back there, he's held and gets the free kick. So a little bit of luck there for Brad Scott. He made the error and then just not picking it up when perhaps Kemp thought he would. His kick goes to Ashcroft. He's got the run there of Lappin. Lappin hugs the boundary, goes to the outer side, and a boundary throw-in. So goals are very hard to come by, Chad Morrison.
And often when you've got a game like this, which is not of a great standard and very close on the scoreboard, it just takes one or two players to lift their work rate individually, and they can have a major impact on the game. And Peter Matera is the sort of player that you would look for in a Dean Kemp for the Eagles, and perhaps a Lappin or a Chris Johnson for the Lions.
Well, speaking of Lappin, he's gone to ground. Here's a chance for the Eagles. The tackle by Champion on Williams. Gehrig gives it off to Banfield. Can he get possession? He can't. Champion goes in hard again. And good defensive work there by the Lions. Sees it over for another boundary throw-in.
Maybe a Darryl White for the Lions, who's had a pretty quiet night. He's a sort of player that could just take 3 possessions and kick 3 goals very quickly. That's good, this bloke.
Matera for goal. Going to be very close. He's got it. Well, is he going to be the man? Peter Matera, he's played every game, one of only 5 West Coasters to do so this year, and he's kicked his first goal. Could be a vital one.
And this is why he has been a great player and a champion player of the competition in this decade. One of the 90s greatest ever players. But he's got a bit of work to do, and the Eagles have got to kick a couple of goals in a row. Peter Matera with 17 possessions has been one of their best, but they've got to kick a number of goals in succession.
Peter Matera has his first as we have a ball up in the middle. Is that going to break the ice as far as the West Coasters are concerned? No, there's a free kick out of the centre. It's going to go the way of Hart for the Brisbane Lions. It's the West Coast now by 3 points. That's a good kick to Bradshaw, however.
Well, it was a brilliant kick. Guy McKenna picked up the move, but he just wasn't quite quick enough to get back into the space. You'll see him at the bottom of the screen there, just going towards it, but couldn't quite get there in time.
Bradshaw kicked 2 in the first term, kicked the first goal of the match, and he's kicking from 49 metres. Will struggle with the distance. Needs a Rovers goal in front of this pack, but it's going to be taken over the line in the left forward pocket for another throw-in. There's wily old Johnny Worsfold, the skipper. Made his debut back in 1987 as that young man rips through yet another pie. Here's the throw-in. The Lions keen to do something while they've got it in that zone. Hart tumbles on it, but then loses it. And again, it is Phil Matera who keeps it in play just for a moment. Well, Braun took it out, and then there's a cry of out of bounds on the full.
And it was just fantastic to hear the instructional talk there of Phil Matera talking to Braun. You've seen there verbalising and telling him to keep going forward.
Clark again doing the work in front. Ashcroft, a short little kick into the left forward pocket, again out of bounds. No, kept in play. So Dean Kemp picks up the crumbs, runs across the face, chips it as is with a little 9-iron. Cousins sees it bounce over as he tries to juggle it.
When you've got your head over the ball and you're just paddling around looking for an opening, you really haven't got a chance to put your head up and assess the situation around you, and that's the exact position where you do need teammates giving instructional talk.
McRae and Cousins head for the line once again. Benny Cousins, of course, the Norwich Rising Star of 1996, and also in that group that hasn't missed a game for the West Coast so far this year. Hart gets a hurry kick into the forward line. Worsfold drops perhaps what he should have taken. Recovers now with a hand pass to Matera. Goes over the top to McIntosh. The advantage will pay there because Phil Matera was dealt with. The kick comes towards McKenna. He's almost down to centre wing. Johnson is brought back on the mark. McKenna looks towards half forward. Fuster's lurking down there, but he elects to go short. Waterman from the centre now. In towards Fuster. Strong mark. Strong mark. Consider that ball to be fairly slippery. It's a very good one grab, and he can kick a ball. That is a booming punt kick. Free kick found. It's going to go the way of the Brisbane Lions for some interference in that pack. But the Eagles have the only goal in this second half. It is going to be a low-scoring affair. Just which side is going to break remains to be seen.
Ackermanis runs it out to Lappin, gets it back. Under a little bit of pressure, gets his kick forward. Well done by Cousins on Brad Scott. McKenna going back. He's been terrific all night. Brad Scott now. And McKenna held on to by Johnson. And just Chris Johnson, the timing of some of his free kicks as far as when his side has possession. A little bit unfortunate there.
He was a bit stiff because when he did grab McKenna, he did have possession of the ball, but it slid underneath him and he pulled him away from it, incurring the wrath of the umpire. And this is a good move, apparently, because it looks like Fuster has become a bit of a focal point for them that was sadly lacking across the half-forward line. He's picked up a couple of confidence-building possessions.
Well, Dick Voss has dropped his second easy mark for the corner. Gehrig over the top to Heady. Heady into the open goal and misses a very easy shot. Well, with goals very hard to come by, Brett Heady should have done better with that, and an important miss from the West Coast Eagles.
Well, according to Dipper, it was the side that kicks the first two goals that would win this game, so the game still in dispute.
Champion to kick in for the Lions, looking for Clark. Braun comes across well with courage, goes to ground, slips inside the 50. Kennedy off the ground, but he hasn't got it clear. Braun needed to be clean, couldn't pick it up. Hart, can he do so? He does, gets it back to Steve Lawrence. Short kick to Brad Scott, finds him on the halfback flank. Lions finding it hard to score goals. He goes up forward looking for Dean Scott. Morrison, the man in front, does well, taps it clear and taps it to their advantage.
Free kick to Morrison, and a good matchup on Deon Scott because he's got the pace to get in front of him. It was Scott that made the lead, but Morrison just pushed in front of him with extra pace and has now set up the skipper.
Worsfold kicks long and kicks high. Chance for a mark for Gehrig. He's at the back. Getting in front is Dick Voss. He doesn't take the mark again. Lappin tries to tap it to the boundary. Banfield is there. I don't think that's out of the full. That went along the ground. It'll be a boundary throw-in.
Big concern about those Eagles players up the four-line, not in front of Dick Voss. I mean, Dick Voss had 3 opportunities to take easy marks.
Spot on, Dipper. Gehrig has got to take the front position. John Worsfold is actually picking up Deon Scott. Morrison is on Chris Scott now.
Ball does the work from behind. Braun to Kemp. Still a long way out. A centering kick has to be good. It is. There are a couple of options there. Matera or Reid, the latter has it. Directly in front with 55 out. The Eagles now threatening. This is what the Brisbane Lions did for a lot of the second term. Were unable to put it on the board. Can the West Coasters?
I'm just not sure what that does. I mean, surely you're concentrating on kicking a drop punt rather than where the man on the mark is.
It just puts the pressure on the man on the mark not to go over that line because, as we know, Matthew, for those who have played, we try to crib 2 or 3 inches, don't we?
Well, I wouldn't say inches, Dip. Maybe a bit more than inches.
Well, Dippy, you said the side that kicks the first 2 goals in this second half was going to be the side to beat. Well, here's an opportunity for the West Coasters.
A big kick.
It is a big kick from a little man. He goes close to the mark. Very close to the mark. Now there's 50.
There, it's worked.
So all that little bit of gamesmanship is going to pay dividends because he should kick a goal.
Well, he was spot on marking the line. It's not a great feature as far as aesthetics of the game, but Stephen Lawrence apparently ran over the mark. We may be able to get a side-on view of that, but we all knew where the mark was.
He goals. Is that going to his 4th goal of the season, but more importantly, his first for the night and the 2nd for the Eagles in this term. A mini break. 6-5 plays 4-7. I don't think we can see it from the side, Gee.
Well,
much as we'd love to.
You could see on that one that he landed over the mark, but whether or not when he hit the ball he was over the mark is one we'll have to leave for Dipper.
So all of a sudden the West Coast have stretched it out to 10 points as the Gabba crowd voiced their disapproval of that last decision. Off the ground, Waterman to Clark, claiming the mark, and does so. We're halfway through the 3rd term. The Eagles, 2 goals. Coming out, Dion Scott, the strong mark. And perhaps they're fired up by that decision and looking to reply quickly. Scott, he spotted a player standing on his own, but the kick doesn't quite make it. It was Chris Johnson. Good work by Peter Matera to drop back and to do enough. And boundary throw in once more.
Well, it was great work. Well, this was too, actually, because Dion Scott took a great mark. And Glenn Jakovic just showing a little bit of, well, a lack of confidence. He wasn't going with the ball, but Matera didn't give away the infringement when he attacked Chris Johnson front on.
Boundary throw in again. Here's a chance for the Lions. Can they keep it in play? They do. Robbins gets out of a bit of trouble, kicks it up high, favouring the Eagles' ball. McRae does well. Beautiful work there by McKenna to slide in and hold it up. And Guy McKenna just showing his experience there. 16 possessions to McKenna, 7 marks.
We had a number of problems last week with that right shoulder. It must be a constant dislocator or subluxator, and you end up with it just partially dislocating, end up with what they call a dead arm. Puts him out of business for a while, but he's able obviously to come up after a few days rest.
I didn't know when I was in primary school and I was giving kids a punch in the arm that I was hitting their subluxator or whatever. But we'll worry about that another time, as again we see another boundary throw in.
I used to love giving them dead arms.
Yeah, thank you, Cinderella. I love to do what you do, Cinderella.
Dipper's got the pumpkin ready to take us home.
But it is a 10-point margin. Clark can't grab it. Ackermanis. Handball over the top to Clark. He's going to be caught. He gets it away.
Oh!
Leppich just takes care of McRae on the way. Ashcroft there. McRae stumbles to his feet. Ashcroft desperately trying to keep it in because they have the numbers, the Lions, and McIntosh does well.
As you said, a magnificent season, Ashley McIntosh, and there once again outnumbered, got the ball over the boundary line as Justin Leppich puts Craig McRae out of business.
Ball again doing the work as Ackermanis picks it up from behind, goes over the head of Bradshaw. It passes Scott, who's going to be first to recover here. Jakovic, a proppy hand pass is going to be all right to Peter Matera. Claim, but gets his kick in front of the Social Club. Drops short, however, and it's marked by Ashcroft. Long way from home is Marcus. The Eagles have kicked the only 2 goals in this term. Darryl White flew, but without success. He hasn't been sighted. Hart does well as he slaps it down closer to goal. It's going to be interesting now as Jakovic tries to put the foot on the accelerator. Ackermanis is caught. Scott is there to help him. Jakovic piles him over the line. Another throw in. The Lions booting 4 goals in the first half. 3 of those coming in the first quarter. Darryl White trying to get into this game, trying to get a touch, and has got a free kick. The ironical cheers come up from this pro-Lions crowd. The wry smile from Chris Mitchell as he explains to Chris Waterman just why he gave the free kick. And the angle.
It's almost as if both sides have decided that we'll get to the last 5 minutes of the game and then we'll fight it out.
We'll fire it up, yep. 4-7 plays 6-5. Well, Darryl has had a very quiet night. He did kick a goal in the first quarter. He started that left. It stays left. He's added a behind to that first quarter score.
Both sides, I'm sure, will get desperate when the situation becomes desperate with minutes to play in the last quarter. But in the Eagles' position now, just 2 or 3 goals in succession would just about put the match in their control.
Short kick finds Dean Kemp. Kemp plays on. Looking for Jason Ball. Gets Clark out of the way. White chips in and takes the mark. He's got a player in the middle. Finds him. It's Leppich. Lappin will run for him, but Leppich decides to go alone. From 55, he sets sail, but he had the wrong rig and kicks it out on the full. just a very poor kick, and he knows it. But it's with goals so hard to come by, clear 55 metres out, it should be at least hitting the line. And a golden opportunity wasted. Once again, the Eagles will kick to the commentary position side. Guy McKenna towards Metropolis. White forgot about the ball, went for Metropolis, and the umpire, well, actually the central umpire, not the umpire in command, paid the free kick, and the free kick to Metropolis. Here we see. Could have easily taken a mark there, Darryl White.
For Metropolis.
For Metropolis.
You'd say that Metropolis fortunate to come up with a free kick there. Kick certainly put him under some pressure.
And nothing happening for him. Up high. Up too early is Dion Scott. It comes to Matty Kennedy. A quick kick. The Eagles have the numbers back there, but getting in and taking a good chest mark is Chris Scott. Thinks about Nigel Lappin. Brad Scott, I'm sorry.
All right, looks like it.
A little bit, yeah. They play golf similar too. So Brad Scott, who has been in a defensive role as usual, and this is an important kick because their last goal was at the 13-minute mark of the second quarter, and with just over 5.5 minutes remaining in this third term, need a goal. Is it going to come back? Not enough. And once again, another behind.
Craig McRae. Chris Waterman. 8 points the margin, and one of the biggest margins in this game. Ball, Leppich, Kemp, too good for White. Darryl White may have the last laugh here. Gives it up to Ackermanis. Spins round on a sixpence, then kicks in towards Scott, who's very well spoiled. And it'll force another throw in. Good effort by McIntosh. His defensive skills have been excellent tonight.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. The handball from Dean Kemp after that mark was just probably a little bit too slick under these circumstances. It's put his side under a bit of pressure.
Ball got a fist to it. And we'll have to go through a similar procedure again with Malthouse.
Well, he's left Drew Banfield on Nigel Lappin for the entire game, and Lappin has stayed in defence, almost down towards the back pocket at times.
Scott just tries to poke it down in front. Cousins kept it in play. Ackermanis could be first to the spinning ball. Gets away from Banfield and has a bounce. That's ambitious. Then kicks in towards the centre. Player in Lawrence is forced to prop for just a moment. Bamford lost it. Lawrence almost threw it out to Chris Scott. He goes down to the forward line towards Dion Scott, but ball is in the way.
It's a great tack on the footy there by Phil Reid, who leaped about 2 metres.
Ball kicks back towards centre wing. West Coast have the players here. Heady's away. Brett Heady thought about it, putting ball to ground, but now goes up towards Fraser Garrick. Couldn't pick it up on the half volley. Champions wearing him like a glove, and eventually surges it over the line. 4-9 plays 6-5. The Eagles lead, and we've got just under 4.5 minutes of play left in this third term as Mr. Johnson heads to the bench.
Robbins. Handball is too fierce and misses Lawrence. Misses the body completely. He forces him to just run it over the boundary line again. And statistically, I'd guess that boundary throw-ins would be winning this match.
Because an outstanding evening.
Oh, absolutely. There's been plenty of them. This time it's Kennedy against Fuster. Tap forward by Phil Matera. Into the path of Heady. Overruns it. Dick Foss gets back. Champion does well. It's kick cool. But the handball misses the body. Braun can't pick it up. Matera's in there. Kemp. Still a chance, the Eagles. Out it comes from Reid. And unfortunately, a behind there to the Eagles. So that was by Michael Braun. 6-6 to 4-9. The margin to 9 points. Nigel Lappin to kick in for the Lions.
Once again, Brett Heady, just with fatigue or perhaps the old sinews starting to tighten up in his old age, couldn't get down and pick that ball up as he was heading towards the goal.
Robbins runs it over the boundary line once again. And a concern for Merritt, Roger Merritt, Jared, that the fact that they just cannot kick a goal at this stage.
Well, I think both sides have got the same problem, Matthew, and any side that can kick 2 or 3 quick ones, I think will have so much momentum that they'll take the 4 points.
Robbins grubbers it along the ground towards Bradshaw, with him Metropolis. Picked up by Banfield. An ugly kick hit. Lawrence runs onto it. Does he get around Reed? No. The handball finds Hart. Hart's got some options out wide. Almost missed the body with Kennedy. It forces him to stop. Kennedy's kick is poor and the skill level is down. And what can the Eagles do as Morrison handballs out to Matera?
Peter Matera, this is on the outer wing. Kicks in towards Heady and Dick Foss down on the 50. Finally taken over the line. 6-6 plays 4-9. There's Danny. This first-year player back in 1996 and has gone from strength to strength since then as Mr. Dick Foss. This is Robbins around the body. Lions have got the numbers there. Bamford gets the hand pass away now. Maybe they can start something here towards Bradshaw, who's in front, takes a good mark.
Becoming a problem for them also, Daniel Bradshaw.
Into half forward. Kick goes over the top. Ackermanis has got to try and beat a couple. In fact, he won't even get there. McKenna just tidies up. Comes back towards ball at centre half back. So they're having trouble getting it past half forward at the moment, the Brisbane Lions. It's on centre wing. It's used to use the body for a little bit of a nudge. Brad Scott gets a hurry kick towards Darryl White. Now, maybe he can produce something here. Darryl White steaming in towards full forward. Free kick is the cry from Brisbane Lion fans, but it's not to be. And Metropolis goes to the outer side. Finds a little bit of safety into first gamer Williams. Gets a kick towards centre wing. Good kick too for Matera. (13 and 6 for Peter Matera tonight. So just about 20 possessions for this marvellous player. Out of bounds again on the outer side. It's Roger Merritt. Hands on, and Scotty Clayton. Offsider to the right.
They'll be sitting there thinking they've just got to break it open somehow, let the game open up for them. The Eagles haven't been able to put them away, and when you're at home in front of your home crowd, you're always in with a show.
And Champion's in with a show here if he can get clear. He can't, but Chris Scott is there to give him valuable assistance. Wider to Sean Hart. Hart towards the centre wing. Hilton bypasses it for Lawrence, who sees it over the line. Got the heavy knock earlier, Stevie Lawrence, but he's okay. With only 1 minute remaining, the Lions have added 3 points this term. The Eagles have added 2 goals too. There's young Ben Robbins wearing the number 28 strip. Came from the West Coast Eagles list a number of years ago, 94, 95. Chris Scott, an ambitious bounce, and then has given away the free kick.
Well, it was a good pursuit and chase there by Brett Heady. I reckon the Eagles need another goal before three-quarter time, because the Lions will come home with a wet sail, very wet in fact, with their home crowd.
Stephen Lawrence takes a mark, chipping in front. You can see the clock running down. Kennedy around the body, but it's going to be Guy McKenna who takes the safe chest mark. So they're holding up resolute in defence. And Bradshaw actually ran through the mark there, but wasn't picked up. Finds Gehrig, with him Dick Foss, but Gehrig is about 70 to 80 metres out from goal. He's not allowed to play on. Time on has been called. Fraser Gehrig.
Maybe you could go out wide and try and balk around him, because there isn't much time left. Obviously, he wouldn't know that. There's not much on option.
He's found someone, though, and that is Jason Ball, who ran hard to get into the space, right across, and marks it right on the siren. So Jason Ball.
This time Dion Scott doing the marking of the mark, and so's the umpire.
Oh, he's marked. This is where it is. So Jason Ball can put his side 15 points in front, right on the three-quarter siren. It will be a tough kick in these conditions.
Huge margin in the context of this game too, Matty. Look at what they've scored so far. Just 10 goals in the match.
The crowd give him a rise. Ball from 50. It's going close. It just... Is it a goal? Katrina Presley. No score. Well, all sorts of conversations there, but in the end, no score.
A dramatic end for Mrs. Ball.
And Mrs. Presley.
And Miss Presley, or Mrs.
She's tight. It did look as if the ball flipped the post on the way through. I always thought it was the result of the kick that counts. If it comes off hands, then this, if it does in fact hit the post, would pay, should be a point.
Isn't it, didn't they, I'm not sure here, but isn't it when they touch it now that they changed it all? If you can touch the ball in flight after the siren, it's a dead ball.
We'll get Dipper to go out and ask Mrs. Presley
She's
as we
cool.
go to three-quarter
She's
time.
calm. And the West Coast lead at three-quarter time. Three-quarter time here at the Gabba, and it's the West Coast Eagles with a couple of goals in the third term, the only ones in the third term who've opened up a very handy 9-point lead. 6-6 plays 4-9.
7 Sports hope you're enjoying this match in the 1998 Coca-Cola AFL Premiership season.
Controversial shot at goal after the siren by Jason Ball has left a few of us scratching our heads, and we'll have a look at it once again. Dipper's down on the boundary line. He's had a chance to speak with. Now this ball appears to be touched there and pushed around the post. Was that by Champion?
Hard to tell whether it's over the line from there, but he definitely hit it.
Well, Dipper, you've spoken to the reserve umpire, Dipper. What do they say?
Look, unfortunately, I haven't seen the actual vision, but I did ask the umpire, when is the ball dead? The ball is dead when the siren goes, and the umpire, the field umpire actually hears the siren. He calls the ball dead. If the ball is pushed through by a teammate over the line, it is no score, but if it's pushed over by the opposition, it's a score. That's what he said to me. How's that?
So if in fact it came off the opposition hand into the goalpost, we might have a look from the front later on. It would constitute a point.
That's right.
Well, by golly, that looked as close to the line as you could expect, and I guess it's fair to say that Mrs. Presley was in the right spot at the best view.
Miss or misses?
We'll determine that later.
Miss. Thank you, as Guy McKenna slides into the hoarding with Mr. Bamford, and there'll be another throw-in. So the equation is a simple one for the Brisbane Lions. They trail by 9 points going into this final term. They've got the crowd behind them now, realising they've got a mighty fight on their hands as Hart gives it across to Lappin, back to Hart again, scragged by Drew Banfield. That was an excellent tackle. Off he goes to Brett Heady, down towards Fuster. In the front of the pack was Kemp, gives it back to Drew Banfield. The Eagles look dangerous again as they go down towards Garrick. Almost took the mark from behind. Here's Richard Champion darting out the back door sensibly. Ball to ground. Kicks wide towards centre wing. Very wide. And disappointingly for him, out of bounds on the full.
It's just a crucial kick. I mean, he had three players that are a bit shorter, and he could have kept it low, but for some reason took the time to just bang it out of bounds.
Heady called to play on now. And does so towards Banfield, just inside 50, and also Williams. He couldn't take the mark. This is Banfield again. Back towards 50. Clean bowls a couple, including Reid. Hart's there to do the tidying up. Oh, his hand pass was like greased lightning. Phil Matera gives it off to Cousins. Cousins back to Reid. Here's danger. Reid sets sail for home with a quick snap. Looks pretty good too for the West Coast Eagles. A great start to the final term. Second goal to this young man. He kicked one in the third term. They've kicked the only goals in the second half now, the Eagles, and they're going to be very, very tough to beat. Well, another angle here, boys. Have a look at this. And well, it was Champion's hand, I think.
It did look...
yeah, it had to be Richard's hand.
So therefore it should be a behind.
Could have been a goal. It looked to me like it was over the line.
Drama continuing here.
And the Eagles in the greatest margin of the evening now, 15 points. And considering the Lions have not kicked a goal in this half, that is looking like a very big margin indeed as Jason Ball kicks them forward once again. Champion comes out. Brett Heady there, trying to get clean possession, taps it forward. Reid again. Lawrence, there's a free kick and it's play on. It's gone to the Lions, so advantage paid. Lawrence to Scott. Back to Ashcroft. Back Brad Scott through the middle. Onto the chest of his brother in Chris. The twins combine as the Lions go forward. Right up towards Bradshaw. He has to punch, but the Eagles have the numbers. Once again, Guy McKenna down back, slews off the side of his boot and goes out of bounds. But Guy McKenna been resolute in defence this evening.
And Dean Kemp also has had a great start to this final term. I'm sure that the Eagles senior players would be thinking to themselves and discussed at three-quarter time they weren't going to let another one slip as they did last week. They started on in a big flurry in the final term last week, but Melbourne just too good and came over the top.
Long kick forward. Dick Frost there for the Lions. Hands off to Simon Black. Black on his wrong foot, low to Lappin. Clean bowls Lappin. Looks like he's moved a bit into the midfield to get some possessions, as he did last week. Advantage paid. Heady a chance now. Runs to 70. Kicks in the direction of Garrick. Lawrence goes back. Reid looking for the crumb. Champion again. No one to kick to. It's not going to find the boundary. The chase between Hart and Matera. Hart does well to keep his feet. Matera clever. Back to Reid. Free kick. Holding. And Philip Matera will take the free kick.
They just haven't been able to find Fraser Gehrig with any regularity to, I guess, seal this match. And that was another example of him missing what should have been a mark to him.
Braun couldn't get a hand to it. McRae on the last line of defence to Lawrence. Thought about changing the direction, but then goes long to the outer side. White has been well held tonight, has been quiet. Hart edged out of it, ball overruns it, goes back towards the 50 once again. Braun goes to ground. Look at them, going in like there's no tomorrow. Williams got in, got the hand pass out. The kick, and there's going to be a free kick, I think, down the ground because Simmons, or is it going to be paid? It's going to be paid. It's a goal.
Well, now they're going to say catch us if you can, because the West Coast Eagles have opened up a commanding lead. 8 goals, 6 to 4-9. Yes, it's moved on now to, well, 21 points. So it's a pretty well, I would suggest, a match-winning lead at this stage. But we've said that before, and we saw against Port Adelaide that this side can come home and kick a couple of quick ones.
So Michael Braun gets his first for the night, but very, very handy one for the West Coast Eagles as Clark rips it out of the middle to Lappin, who spirals a long skidding ball down in towards the right forward post. Almost off the boot on the ball from Metropolis, but no, it's the umpire, and there'll be a throw-in. The other important thing, Jared, of course, is the ladder when the West Coast, as they start their finals run home, when you consider the impressive performances of Richmond and North today, the West Coast, like Adelaide, must keep winning to ensure a top 4 spot, therefore a final on their home turf. But all that lies ahead. Metropolis's hand pass is somewhat erratic, but the smother by Banfield was excellent.
Good work tonight, Drew Banfield. Another quality performance, mainly in attack, but as a negative player.
In particular, in this last quarter, he's been in everything.
Throw in. The Lions now reaching a desperate stage. Robbins flicks it in towards full forward. The enigmatic one is there. He can't take it. Neither can Bamford. McIntosh on all fours finds a little bit of space. He's been superb. The kick is high now towards Heady, and he takes a strong mark, charging at that ball. Thinks about Kemp, but elects to go longer towards Fuster. Now he gives it off to Kemp. Can't get past Kennedy. Turned over to Ashcroft. The Lions again making a thrust forward. Peter Matera shows his class and his skill.
And great lesson there for Ben Robbins on use of the body. Peter Matera just pushed him away from the ball and then lunged forward and took a pretty impressive chest mark, and he may have just copped one also.
And he takes off, Peter Matera, decides to switch to the other side. Braun, pressure from McRae. McRae gives it to Lepich. Lepich dummies the handball back to McRae. He's inside 50. He likes to kick goals. He punches it low, but he draws it across the body, and only the behind. So Dion Scott looks on, and what he sees is another behind of the Lions. Is Alistair Lynch perhaps a little bit depressed there with his bad hamstring, and also depressed with the fact that the Lions cannot kick a goal. Banfield, as we mentioned, is very prominent in this last turn. Now look at the space Kemp has. He's got 20 or 30 metres. He's told to hurry up by Waterman. Touch on the ground. It'll go over the top. 2 on 3. The Lions have the numbers. Reed taps it out towards Heady. Lawrence, because of the scoreboard pressure, decides that he has to keep it in because they have to do something. Kennedy gets a free kick for 1 too high. Now, in a normal situation, Lawrence would have seen that over the boundary line in the back half. But with just under 15 minutes remaining, the Lions need to kick 4 or 5 goals. Kennedy's kick will just hold up. Bamford, McKenna again, the discipline, the experience, the punch. And Roger Merritt and Scott Clayton, Rod O'Reilly looking on and would have to be concerned. Boundary throw in. Ball makes the front spot. Chris Scott coming through. No decision there. Chris Scott, who was averaging about 24 possessions over the last month, the minute about 18. So Clark and ball again. No one's going to take it. Ackermanis and Simmons. Ashcroft towards McRae. Under pressure. Chance for the Eagles if they can get clean possession. Braun to Philip Matera. Around the body. Coming out to collision coming. Champion. Here's a chance for Gehrig. He's forced to tap it to the 50.
Keeps it in play. Maybe a chance now for the Lions to clear as Hilton gets the hand pass away. Look out, McRae, you're gone. Great tackle. The ball spills free and it's socket wide. and over the line in front of the Social Club here at the Gabba.
There's a great tackle by the newcomer there, Williams. Every Eagles player's going up to say well done.
He's been all right. Diffie's come on and off the bench a couple of times, but has picked up a few possessions in his first game. Coming in late for David Wiraponda. We wish him well in his career as it unfolds. Kemp slaps it straight to Hilton. Kicks in towards the centre. Simmons lopes towards it. He's in the middle of the Gabba. An effective kick to Morrison. Matera breaks for him.
Just getting a lot more run from their ground level players, the Eagles, providing many more options, but sometimes not finding.
And Williams has a look back from whence it came, and there will be a throw-in. In the Eagles' attacking zone, there's Peter Matera, still barking instructions. Ball pushing towards goal. Heady can soccer off the ground. He does, but without accuracy. And Mick is having a bit to say. The runner's ears would be burning. Champion will bring it back into play. 4-10 plays 8-7. Clark in front. That was the target from Champion. Thrown out. They've got to try and score now. Chris Scott towards Lawrence and then Ackermanis. Got it down towards the centre wing. What can Jason do? He needs assistance. Gets it from Lawrence again. A worm burner up towards left half forward. It's going to be chopped off once more. McIntosh is saying, watch out for my little man Matera.
It really has become quite dysfunctional, the Brisbane Lions forward line. And the amount of success the Eagles have had just with players dropping back across that line and taking interception marks has been one of the key differences between the two sides at this point in the match.
Another boundary throw in, 21 points the margin.
They're not winning the ball enough across the middle of the ground to be kicking over that defensive line.
And perhaps they're going to have to try and switch the play and take some risks and run to a space and leave their man. But anyway, Chris Scott chips along the boundary. Again, the Eagles have the numbers back there. It's Ben Cousins back in board. Good running from Peter Matera. Unloads with a long torpedo punt. Heady gets back and marks well. And the long kick from Peter Matera.
Just great judgment, wasn't it? Brett Heady summed it up off the boot that it was going to be over the top of any pack that would form, and he just kept running with the flight of the ball and took it pretty easily on the old chest, and it wouldn't have been an easy mark.
So Brett Heady, who has kicked one, the distance won't be a problem. He'll kick from about the 45 or in the 40s, but the accuracy is the test.
Needs to pull his socks up.
Thank you, Cinders. A crucial kick. Heady, low, punches it. He's happy with it. He's very happy with it. And it's a goal. The Eagles stretch it out now to 27 points. And in the context of this match, Jared, that is a match-winning margin.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I think the game has gone. It's only a matter of now whether the Lions can come back and kick a couple of quick goals to finish the game off with some sort of respectability. They haven't kicked a goal in this second half, and well, that's been a real disaster for them. But well done to the Eagles. Their midfield has dominated since three-quarter time.
2 goals to Brett Heady, 1 in the first term, and now adding that one. A goal that virtually seals it for the West Coast in this low-scoring encounter. They've opened up a marvellous lead. Matera, Phillip pokes it towards left half forward. Dick Foss leads in the race, soccers towards the line. Cousins comes in to join in now, and like the slippery ball, slides over the line. Roger Merritt looks as though he's going to taste defeat for the first time in his coaching career. After opening up with a draw and then a couple of wins.
Well, they're in a similar situation for that draw against Port Adelaide, 26 points down. But the conditions being wet makes it a completely different game.
Oh, my word, and they've managed just 4 goals, 10 in this game so far. And 3 of those goals came in the first quarter. Here's Kemp. taking the hand pass, looking down towards Fraser Gehrig again. He gets front spot, one grab at it. Champion tries to punch it out of the air. Does okay. Hilton gets clear, gives the hand pass away. Pushed in front of McRae. He's going to run into Kemp and does so. Can go again towards Ashcroft. Now Ben Cousins. First one way, then the other. Twisting and turning. Kicking back in towards half forward. Natasha Body's in a good mark taken by Lawrence.
Got to switch the play now, the Lions, if they're going to find some space.
Well, they've got to find something pretty quickly as Lappin sprints clear. He's at half back. Goes wide towards centre wing and finds Ackermanis.
And maybe they've just got to take a risk and get Lappin up into the centre of the ground and running from centre forward.
Well, they've got just under 11 minutes to do it. Hart almost threw it out the back door when he couldn't quite take the mark. Bradshaw's in there for the assist to no avail, and another throw in. 34 plays 61. The West Coasters leading on this wintry old night here at the Gabba. Time enough, but when you consider they've only scored 4 goals for the night, and they need 5 to win it, it's a tall order. Here's Donnelly taking the mark, and the youngster Williams going in towards goal is away to the right. He pops through behind.
Andrew Williams, his debut game. Fraser Gehrig to the bench as we have a look at Ben Robbins, who has had plenty of the ball. But the kick in for the Lions towards Clark. Over the back was Morrison. Around the body, Banfield. The Champion shipping in. He's done pretty well, Champion.
Did you reckon he'll be playing there for the next few weeks? Because Alistair Lynch would no doubt miss at least 2 or 3 matches.
Perhaps even 4. Simmons is doing a fine job, and again the Eagles players in front. And they've become very solid across that centre half-back line. Lions finding it hard to get any clear method through there. Simmons.
I think in the second turn, the Lions were on top for most of the quarter, but they just couldn't find the goals. And they may well have spent all their petrol tickets in the first half because there haven't been too many on display in the second half.
Hilton just crawls it around the boundary outside 50.
Yeah, that was Rogers' a message at three-quarter time there, Jared. 15 minutes in that third quarter, they had opportunities to kick goals to stay in the contest.
Yeah, well, they haven't even looked like a goal in this term, Dipper, have they?
Not at all.
Fuster finds front position. Clark over the back. Lays off Kemp, looking for McIntosh, who's up that end of the ground. Perhaps Lepich chasing the kick to get something going. The handball by Clark comes to the Eagles. They go forward. But again, Richard Champion going back. Doesn't take it. Lays the tackle on Donnelly. Coming through Reid. What will he do from there? He goes the check side, but it's far too harsh. And another behind. But they're still doing all the attacking. Champion there. Not controlling it. Donnelly just looking for Reid.
And Cinders, what about warming up the tonsils? Because we may be throwing to you for a couple of versions of your very famous song.
No, I only perform on the stage.
Here's Lappin. And finds McRae. Jared, of course, referring to Dipper, that wonderful part he plays of a fairy, and that classic Cinderella, which is on a crown this week. Bamford loses it. Banfield is there also. Drew Banfield paddles it indoors towards McKenna. Now Kemp. Hilton. Inside towards Lappin. If it sits, he's in business. Away he goes. Now maybe this could be something for Johnson. Recovers well. Tucks it under his arm. Sets sail for home. They desperately need a goal. And he's kicked one. Pierce's goal umpire Presley. 5-10 plays 9-9. We're back to a 23-point ball game, Jared.
Yes, and well, who knows what can happen. I think this is when the Lions look best, when Lappin gets the ball around midfield and starts the attacks rather than withholding the opposition attacks. And, well, they look the better side. I'll tell you what, Rory Hilton's come on and give them a little bit of spark, and maybe they can kick another one to liven up this match.
Well, it's a funny old game, but if they can get another one now, there's plenty of time left. And the crowd sensing this too. 23 points the margin. Who's going to win it out of the middle? It passes Lappin. That's not what they wanted. Reid pushes it back towards the centre. Difficult one to pick up. But eventually it was Jakovic. Off he goes towards Reed. Can he reply quickly? Cousins wants to. 25 out. He dribbles it through. And how quick is that?
Yes, it was a great reply, wasn't it? And one of the best moves, I think, tonight has been Phil Reed going into that half-forward line. He really has given them the crummer, the genuine hard worker up there that's kept the ball in the forward line. They've won it out of the middle enough times to give themselves enough shots at goal to kick a winning score here tonight. And Ben Cousins, whilst being held pretty well tonight, has continued his work rate, and he's been a valuable contributor.
So the quick answer, the very quick answer by Ben Cousins. Clark, Brad Scott with Cousins, Banfield again, Simmons and Ackermanis coming through Lepic, trying to assert his authority. Matera with a good chase, does well. Lepic, handball to the ground. It comes to Philip Matera. He's looking for his brother. He does well, doesn't take possession. Doesn't take possession, Lepic falls for it and wins the free kick. Not too happy with it, but it doesn't really matter because Peter Matera has the free kick and the West Coast Eagles lead by 29 points.
Well, that's just called class. Peter Matera suggesting that he was going to pick up the football, and Justin Lepic applying the tackle. But they have got a couple of problems still, the West Coast Eagles. The form of Glenn Jakovic must continue to be a bit of a concern for them. He's been on and off the bench in the last couple of weeks at least, and I guess the last month has been pretty poor by his very high standards, one of the great players in this competition.
The kick forward by Kemp to no avail, another boundary throw in, just outside their attacking 50. And 29 points the margin, just over 7 minutes remaining in this final term. Jostling for positions, the umpire has said, well, perhaps Jason Ball is at fault. What about that? you can't be serious? Shut up. And Matt Clark takes it.
John Patrick Megan.
White, who has been sadly out of form, he's flown too early quite a number of times tonight. The high kick and Morrison. Speaking of high flies, that was Heady. Kemp back to Williams. Williams around the body looking for Worsfold, who's back on. Lawrence got in front. Champion will try to keep it in. He can't. And once again, the boundary umpire has worked very hard tonight.
And I guess John Worsfold has now become a player that is a fill-in player. He's up forward, he's on the bench. Not often these days in defence, because too often sides are just throwing their team around until they get a quick player on him. He's picked up Dion Scott a number of times tonight, but I think the future of the skipper of the West Coast Eagles probably lies in the forward line. He'd probably put the wind up a few defenders in the next few weeks.
One of the more recent additions to the 200 club is Johnny Worsfold. Marvellous career. Waterman and Banfield. Drew Banfield 70 metres out. Centering kick, the lead is on. Kick is almost there, but here's the opportunity now for Donnelly as he sets sail for home, goes over the top, and it's belted through from behind. So the West Coast Eagles now will most certainly join Richmond and North Melbourne with 9 wins for the season. Bear in mind Adelaide still has to play. So to Sydney.
Here's a break.
Maybe something here. Ackermanis could have been held, but he plays on as he tries to slap it out the back door. Metropolis. But Hilton is there, and he takes the timely mark. Tried hard, Hilton, when he's got his opportunities coming off the bench. Chips away short to Scott. Margin at the moment is 30 points. Can the Lions pick up a couple of late goals? They've got under 6 minutes to do it. And Bradshaw has possession on the outer wing.
Showed some glimpses tonight, Daniel Bradshaw.
Yep.
Hasn't played the full 4 quarters at his best, but certainly has showed that he is going to be a top player.
Here's a go. Ashcroft to Johnson. Now he can go because it's vacant in the square, but he's a little too slow. And he's going to have a shot. Well, he's going to be just outside 50. You can see him there just crossing the 50 line. Take into account his stammering run-up, right on 50. It's not pretty off the boot, but I tell you what, it's effective. But umpire Presley has said one behind.
Well, he almost hit this one right, but just a little bit of extra spin on it, brought it back. And the shepherd not good enough from Darryl White. He went to ground. He should have taken that Eagles player McKenna out of the contest.
29 points the margin. McKenna to himself in front of the scoreboard here at the Gabba. Then long and wide. Matthew Clark came in, may get another chance. Won't now, but Scott, the advantage is not going to be paid. In fact, the free kick, there's some talking going on, and
oh, there you go.
Nash, I think, has made a report on Williams in his first game. You see what happened, Jerry?
No, had no idea. I was looking at the Lions player going forward to kick a goal.
Running forward.
Well, it looks like he's going to get a 50-metre penalty.
So he's going to bring him right into the square anyway, and this could make the margin 23 points. So under 4 goals.
I guess you're always a chance if you can kick a couple in a hurry, but they need to get the next 2 very quickly, Sandy, if we were to start talking about a win.
Well, now let's see if we can have a closer look here.
Oh,
well,
the
tripping. Yep. Hart converts. The margin is back to 23 points. Well, that's very unfortunate for young Andrew Williams, the boy from South Belgrave in his first game. But the bottom line is he's given away the 50 metres. He's been reported, and Sean Hart has kicked his first goal for the night.
Well, the game is never over until you know who sings. The fat fairy there, named Robert Di Domenico.
She's gargling, though. My word, she's
been gargling for about half an hour.
So we're back in the middle, 23 points. As Sandy mentioned, unfortunate for a player on debut to be put in the book. Umpire tosses it up. Clark, Hart, he just kicked the goal. Reed, clever tap back towards Cousins. Looking for possession. Gets it, does well to McKenna. Here's a chance for the Lions. Scott out in front of Ashcroft. He's under pressure from Kemp. And Ashcroft will get the free kick. Advantage paid. McRae goes high. Up goes White, but too early. Once again, Darryl White and Peter Matera, who's played a fine game. So we see White.
Yeah, the old firm back in business tonight for the Eagles. McIntosh, McKenna, Matera, all fantastic players for them.
Dean Kemp. And this time it's Waterman to Simmons. To Matera once more. Will he go the roost again? Oh, look at that. Slips over, gets up, still has time, shows the ball, takes a bounce, does everything in the book, and then kicks it across the face to John Worsfold. Worsfold got to get around Lawrence. Does so, decides to bomb it high. Lions will have the numbers back there. Oh, the push from Hilton, and that again, just an undisciplined jump. And just a minute ago, Andrew Williams has reported now he gets a chance to have a shot at goal and to stretch that lead even further.
Well, Peter Matera just problems with his ribs, no doubt. But I think Roger may have a word to Rory Hilton about that attempted mark.
We've seen one at the offensive end with White and then one at the defensive end at Hilton.
Got a Cadbury's problem here, I think, at the in Queensland. They're all chasing the chocolate.
Williams for his first goal in league football. It is true, it is correct.
Well, a good effort there to convert after being reported. And good to see him getting a goal. He's done a few firsts in his opening match. I guess it's pretty stiff. Not many players would have been done for tripping in their, or reported in their first match of AFL football. And not sure whether it's an instantaneous suspension, but one suspects that that was such a minor offence that maybe he may just get done with some cash.
47 plays, 76. 3.5 minutes remaining. Ball out of the middle, but socket wide straight to Robbins. He chips away with his left foot down towards Darryl White. Traps it on the half volley, but then loses it towards Ackermanis. Goes again. Bradshaw there as well. And quickly in his umpire, Mark Nash. Ball and Clark go at it. Waterman tries to sock off the ground, but loses it to Ashcroft. Can pass a little proppy, but okay for Ackermanis. In towards half forward. Johnson dropped one as it bounced away from the chest. Still on the 50. Matera is there. Johnson does well to get him. Tries to farm it out the back door for McRae. He's caught. And there'll be another ball up on 50 for the Brisbane Lions. Trying to finish with a flurry of goals. But it hasn't been easy for them tonight as far as scoring has been concerned. Chris Johnson has kicked one in this term. Sean Hart got a gimme goal in this term. Here's Ackermanis now, maybe with a chance. It's socked out of his hands by a teammate. The Eagles have the numbers to repel, however, and they will do so through Cousins. Off he goes to Phil Matera. Phil Matera gets another one to McIntosh in the back pocket. Back again to Matera, but poor kick. Bradshaw should goal from here. But it's a poor miss too. One behind, and was cruising in, had plenty of time for the open goal, but unable to convert. 48 plays 76, and we've got just over 2 minutes.
One of the better players on the ground, Ashley McIntosh. I reckon he'd share the votes with his teammates Matera and probably McKenna.
And he's got it back. And, well, they pressed the pause button and they'll replay that. It doesn't really make much difference as Jakovic is back on the ground for Jason Ball because the margin is academic. The verdict will be a West Coast win. And the short kick this time, just holding it long enough, is Morrison. No advantage paid because a mark was paid. He cannot play on from there.
Chad having a far better day this evening, far better night this evening, than last week's outing where he was on the bench a fair bit.
He's found Andrew Williams. The fire very much out of this game as Williams kicks it up long. Bradshaw is there. Ackermanis tries to spin out of trouble. Sean Hart has been pretty clean. Back to Brad Scott, and that's going nowhere.
And for those people who may have joined us late, we did mention earlier that Mickey Martin has joined the Big V squad, but I mean, we look at this Allies squad now and we think of the Brisbane Lions. We've got to bear in mind that Alistair Lynch is out with a hamstring, so he's going to go missing. Darryl White, perhaps he's saving himself for a big one.
Perhaps not.
But has been quiet tonight. Dion Scott and Danny Dickfoss and Marcus Ashcroft and Jason Ackermanis were the other ones that are in that squad at the moment.
So Malthouse looks on with a wry smile because he's going to get the third victory from 4 outings here to the Gabba, which is a terrific performance. You mentioned earlier in the day that they do travel well. And they've succeeded again here at the Gabba. Just under a minute remaining now. Jakovic, the punch on. It ends up with Bradshaw, high around the body. Again, the Eagles, and a good mark taken by Chad Morrison. In these conditions, going back to take it in the hands.
Morrison has done pretty well. 15 kicks, 3 hand passes, and 9 marks. Goes short to Waterman. Chris Waterman also picking up possessions, 11 kicks, 6 hand passes, 7 marks. But a good effort by the Eagles. They just start to flex their muscles as we move towards September and the finals race. A hiccup last week. They've been able to put that behind them. And now Johnny Worsfold. Well, won't bother out having a shot because he's 100 metres from goal. And
just reminding him that percentages do count.
Yeah, but you've got to be able to kick it 100 metres. And he kicks it to centre half forward. There's no addition to the score. And Mick now regains his composure. He's got the 4 points. It was a doer struggle to say the least. 11-10 plays 6:30. Let's go down to the boundary line. Dipper.
Thanks very much, Sandy. Guy McKenna. Tough game tonight.
No, they don't get any easier, I can assure you that. And up here, it's a tough fight. And, you know, Brisbane are a quality side, and we know we have to be on our ball to win this game.
What were your thoughts at half-time?
Well, it was an arm wrestle. I suppose that's the way we like it. And if we stuck at our guns, you know, if we just played and was disciplined like we were, we're going to get across the line.
Important to get those couple of early goals in the third quarter.
Yeah, they certainly helped. They sort of, I think, sapped a bit out of Brisbane, and we kicked on, which was great.
And what sort of work have you had, like with school books and things like that?
We've been going to school, doing a lot of reading at the moment, Dipper, and as you would have done in your career. But, you know, it was great, you know, just for a win. It was really good for the club.
Terrific, mate. Well done.
Thanks, Dipper.
Thank you, Dipper. And well done to Guy McKenna, one of the best on the ground tonight in what in the end turned out to be a very emphatic victory, especially when we look at the second half, because they were totally outscored, the Brisbane Lions. A solid victory to the West Coasters on the road. 11-10-76, 6-13-49.
Yes, they're flying pretty high, especially in the second half here at the Gabba today. A low-scoring first half. We saw scores level at quarter time, only a couple of points in it at half time, and still pretty tight, 9 points the margin at three-quarter time, but a 5-goal blast in that final term, 11-10-76. They were far too good. Brett Heady booted 2, Reid booted 2. They were their major contributors, the multiple scorers, and Bradshaw was the main scorer for the Brisbane Lions. He booted 2. Don't forget, too, about Name a Game. which is available to you on 7, and what a fantastic thing it is too. Simply by dialing 1800 035 665. Any game you want can be yours. We're going to take a break. More shortly from the Gabba. Fans from the Gabba are either having a kick out on the ground or starting to head home after seeing the West Coast Eagles running out emphatic 27-point winners, 76-49. Let's go into their rooms now. Here's Dipper with Brett Heady. Dipper.
Yeah, thanks very much, Sandy. Well, Brett, a terrific win by the boys tonight.
Yeah, I thought it was terrific, mate. We came out and they started off real well and had a lot of the ball in the first half, and we just held and then sort of ran away from them in the second half.
And the old brigade got together yourself, and young Machero got back into a bit of form, and Kempy. Good signs.
Yeah, I think it makes a difference. You know, we're the older brigade, as you say now, and once we step up and set an example, I think the young guys follow. So, you know, that was really pleasing.
There's one thing about the Eagles this year. You found ways of kicking goals.
Yeah, we've got a number of options. I guess we're not a true side that's got a true centre forward, but, you know, they're starting to die out, I think, a little bit in the AFL at the moment. So, you know, we need a number of options, and it's been good. A lot of guys are stepping up and kicking a few.
You've been kissing fish or something this week?
I was just saying, Dipper, I get through, you know, the game's all right, but a young bloke cleaned me up at training the other night, which I was pretty dirty about. He must have been trying to get a game, I think.
Why not? It's all right, young blokes. Young Nick Williams shows some promise, doesn't he?
Yes, mate. He's got a terrific attitude. You know, he works hard and, you know, works hard at everything he does, really, and goes in pretty hard. So, you know, he's got everything there, really.
And how do you find yourself? You're now in the 30s now?
Me?
Yeah. 20s,
mate.
20s? Well, Jerry reckons you look like you're pulling a hamstring a bit tight in the legs tonight.
Yeah, I'm always pretty tight in the legs, but I've only just turned 28, mate.
Oh,
so
sorry.
Hopefully I've got a couple in me yet.
Well, the good news is I won a Brownlow at 28.
Well, there might be hope yet, mate.
Well, a big week after the defeat against the Demons.
Yeah, you know, we were just really flat for that game. You know, we just brought it on ourselves, I guess. We had no run in our legs, and you know, they were a terrific side, and they did the right thing, you know. So unfortunately, we've bounced back from that this week.
That sort of wakes you up a bit, doesn't it? I mean, you've got another 7 odd games to go, and you can't win every game this season.
Yeah, well, you know, 6-1 on or something stupid, you know, and you know, I think you do start to read these sort of things. So at the end of the day, you know, we just didn't play well, and they beat us.
Well, thanks for joining us, and have a great trip back home.
No worries, thanks, Dipper.
Yes, I don't think it will be too bad after that. We might have a look at some of the match stats and see how the game unfolded. Firstly with the Brisbane Lions.
Well, I thought at half-time they looked in a position where they could have run on and taken the game, but they didn't really produce anything, and it was classic Eagles, wasn't it? They strangled them till three-quarter time, then split them open. But Ashcroft worked hard with 26 possessions. Ackermanis, he also was in the 20s. Sean Hart got the ball plenty of times, but there wasn't a lot of damage done forward of the centre by any of their midfielders. I thought Chris Scott was perhaps one of their best 3 players on the ground. Craig McRae up against Peter Matera for most of the game. Struggled somewhat tonight. I thought Kennedy did quite well across the half-back line, although up against Brett Heady, he had a pretty fair tussle, and it was probably marginally in Heady's honours, I would say there. But for the West Coast Eagles, Peter Matera, I thought, well, you could throw him and Guy McKenna. I think the full-back was also a great player, McIntosh. Those 3 players would have shared the votes, and probably Dean Kemp also. And Phil Reid, I think he's a very impressive player, and Ben Cousins also continued its battle on hard.
So there we are, the main stats for these 2 sides, the Brisbane Lions and the West Coast. The West Coast victorious. We'll take a break and come back to say farewell from the Gabba.
Any school quality at all in a game like that.
I think your boys were better after half-time, and that's contributed to the turnaround and getting hold of it.
Well, I think a couple of players lifted after half-time, I don't know.
Gerard Healy very aptly described this as a dour old slug, and I think he was pretty right. 11-10, 76, 6-13, 49. The West Coast Eagles now join those clubs at 9 and 6. We'll check the ladder in a moment.
The 1998 AFL Premiership season brought to you by Telstra. Making life easier. Victoria Bitter for a hard-earned thirst. Cadbury Mark of the Year. McDonald's Double Quarter Pounder with Cheese. And Mitsubishi Motors, the award-winning Magna.
And here is the ladder as it stands at the moment, and the Western Bulldogs, again, Gerard, returning to the top after the Saints copped one from North Melbourne today.
Yes, both the top two sides are slogging it out for top position.
Richmond, too, have been impressive in recent weeks.
They have, and
slogging or slugging?
Both. But they do look as if they're going to finish in the top four if they continue their good run. They've got a very good draw coming home. The West Coast Eagles also are doing quite well at the moment. I don't think they were absolutely impressive today, but any win in these conditions is fantastic, particularly when you travel the distances they have to get here in North Melbourne. They've turned it all around in the space of 2 weeks, and Kerry absolutely superb today, and an interesting couple of games tomorrow.
Yeah, a bit of pressure now on Adelaide and Sydney to stay in the race and to stay with that locked at 9-6. In fact, we'll have a look at the 3 games to be played to complete round 15. Adelaide, and I'll get your thoughts on these. Adelaide plays Hawthorn.
Well, they're a top 4 position, Adelaide, aren't they? Top 4 side. They'll continue their winning ways tomorrow, I think. Collingwood Geelong's an interesting one, depending on whether Nathan Buckley plays. You would think that that would be a pretty even match tomorrow, but I think Geelong would have to go in favourites. And Fremantle and Sydney, well, Fremantle have always beaten Sydney. Sydney yet to win a game against the new franchise in the competition. I think it might be tomorrow.
Yes, desperate times actually for Sydney, who have hit a bit of a submerged log in recent times. State of Origin football, of course, next weekend. The Allies play Victoria here at the Gabba on Friday night. South Australia plays Western Australia Football Park the following day on the Saturday afternoon. You've added Mickey Martin to the Victorian squad, Gerard?
Yes, he's certainly been added, and I imagine going on what Scotty Palmer said with injuries to the likes of Harvey and a number of other players, that there will be a few other additions, so we'll have a meeting on Monday to finalise the squad.
I'll tell you what, you're going to have a tough old task against this Allies side, aren't you?
Yeah, they've got some great players. Unfortunately, some of the stars won't be there, but whenever two sides like the Allies and Victoria go head-to-head, it'll be a great style and a great standard of game.
Let's hope that all those people here in Brisbane get behind and support it here at the Gabba, and of course you'll see it on 7. For now, we say good night.
This has been a 7 Sports production.